Here we go.
In 5, 4, 3.
Call to me, lands far away.
Elves have forests to protect.
We need to build a wall.
Dwarfs their mines. Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other.
For I must now wander this wandering day.
We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel.
No.
Put up your sword.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them!
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples.
Everyone! I am sorry, but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
Away I must wander this wandering day.
To him finally being lionized in the prime and his prime. Fuck.
Do it!
Shit.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams change. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true!
Luke went from being... Oh, no. Welcome, Slayer Nation. I have some great news for you today. I hope you're all doing great. Nope, that didn't work. One more.
You have failed me for the last time.
Welcome, Slayer Nation. I hope...
If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
That is eating away at what you love in order for it to shine. And one man's vision is... Sometimes you don't have to make things better for them to be great again. You merely have to... Okay. Hollywood continues to slow boil the culture and crazy. Well, right now, Spider-Man actor Andrew Garfield has stepped up and he's fighting motherfucker.
I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
And unbearded dwarves, but Prime didn't stop there. They stapled in intersectionality, individuality, biddiga-dig-bee, biddiga-dig-boo.
So it begins.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Ladies and gentlemen, George the Giant Slayer.
My mic was off. Thank you to my producer. What's going on, everybody? We'll do this one more time. We are back. The heat is dying down a little bit in Texas because we've had cloud coverage, which is a good thing. So I don't have to put my feet in an ice bucket. It's great to see you all. It looks like people are packing in. We got Salty War Pig here, Rust in Peace, War Monkey again. We got Yulqui, David Brown, Cody Clone. We're going to have a great show. Disney did it again. They took it in the Dumbo. Amanda Stenberg did another rant, but this time without any rap. And then we have Amazon Prime is back with Panda Rings of Power. Now, it gets to a point when you can, there's so many ways that you can make fun of a show. But this year almost makes season one look poignant in comparison. Elon Musk is under attack. Robert Wright put an article out in The Guardian that he needs to be jailed. That's just one of the ways to stop one of the world's richest men who's fighting for free speech. Plus, we have the wokest game ever, which was funded by the U.S. government, called Dustborn. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Olympics. So, are you ready? Well, let's get rolling, everybody. We have some amazing guests who are joining our incredible panel. First, we have the king of cutting commentary himself, Verbal Riot, is here. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, man. Didn't have the hangover I thought I'd have after half a bottle of wine last night. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Wonderful. We also have two more people who are going to be joining us soon. Tom from Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark will be here in a little bit. And Robert Meyer Burnett will be joining us at the top of the hour. But now I'm proud to introduce to you a very special guest. Really great surprise. She's not only a powerhouse that tells it like it is, not just another voice in the crowd, but a force of nature in chaotic times. You know, when she's not too busy dismantling the woke narrative, she's always shining a light on the truth with her very own sense of flair and style. So put your hands together and give a big Slayer Nation welcome to Sydney Watson.
Yay! That was such a nice intro. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. How are you doing?
Watching the intro to your stream is I love coming on these like Nerd Boy streams because you guys put so much effort into your intros and the women don't do that. I think this is like a uniquely awesome male thing and I really appreciate it. I think it's really cool. So
why do you think they don't do that?
I think we just I don't know. I just don't think we're like super creative like that. I mean, that's not to say women aren't creative. They obviously are. They can be. But I don't know. You guys are just like uniquely good at making fun of things. So I appreciate it.
You know why? Because we're not as attractive as you guys are. So we have to be more creative. Because when you're attractive, you could just hop on there and start talking.
You know, yeah, there's probably something too. Like you actually have to like use your brains, whereas we can just kind of show up and be like, well, I'm here now. So it's good.
Oh, I gotta say, I was talking with Sydney backstage that if you haven't checked out her channel, which I know you've all heard of it, go check it out. She just she had done a video on Star Wars, was her last one, but she did one on Raygun. I gotta tell you, she did a better job. This is Raygun 2.0. We gotta share this in a little bit, but before we get to that, y'all have heard, you know, especially you just did your video on Star Wars. You know, the Acolyte got canceled. You had all the Disney stands have been coming out in force. If they'd only watched the show, it wouldn't have gone anywhere. Well, they put a petition together, what was it, a week and a half ago, and it's been climbing. So now it's at 63,667 signatures. Way to go, Acolyte fans.
They're very mad.
They're like, bring it back, please. And like, no.
Have you seen there's like a supercut that someone put together of all of these people being really cross, women being really cross that the Acolyte got cancelled, and the whole thing is like, the incels did this. The incels weren't watching, fam. Like, it failed because you weren't watching. Like, if you love it so much, why don't you get your girlfriends together to sit in a room and you know, you can pan together. You can watch all the pandering together. So it's really, I don't know if you guys have seen those, but they make me laugh, like all these crazy TikToks about it.
But that's what makes their failure complete, right? Because we are the ones who watched it. We're the ones who watched it. They didn't watch it. So the bigots are the ones who watched the show.
Did you know, Dante, you're a bigot?
You know, I've been told that quite a few times. Yes.
You are the black face of white supremacy.
I've been called that as well.
I meant to ask, I was the one saying that black nerds aren't safe in the sci-fi and entertainment worlds. Do you feel like that? Do you feel unsafe?
You know, I will admit that I did feel seen during the Acolyte, but no, absolutely not. It's so ridiculous. You know what's funny about that though? They make these broad claims about, you know, black people not having a safe space in sci-fi and fantasy. Back in the day when all the black nerds I knew were really into this stuff, no woman would touch a black nerd. Like, it wasn't cool to be a black nerd.
Right.
But all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, we need to be represented in this space.
When I just inspired by Disney, there you go. Perfect. You have an in.
I mean, when I was growing up, it wasn't safe to be a nerd at all. Come on.
Right,
When
period.
you talked about Star Wars when I was going to school, it would be like, get out of here. You looked like you had like the plague or some cootie.
Oh, it was girl repellent if you were a sci-fi geek back in those days, man.
Period.
It's a little bit different when I was growing up because I feel like by that point it was kind of normalized. Like you could just be a dork. Although we did have, back when I was in school in like the early 2000s, you did have the like nerdy boys that would just hang out in the computer room every single lunchtime, and girls wouldn't talk to them. You know what? Actually, maybe it was the case when I was younger too. There you go.
Well, that's cool. I found the clips that you were talking about. We got to watch it first. Is this what you were? This was
yes.
The one? Oh, okay, so let's enjoy the cringe
They're
together.
So mad. Yeah.
Oh, it's so cringe.
They're so mad.
Incels didn't like two people of color holding hands. We're not going to forget that.
They hit the second tower.
That's my favorite.
Set up to fail from the beginning. When the Acolyte was first announced as a female-run show with Leslie Headland at the helm, starring a black femme and a diverse cast of characters, unlike we had seen in a Star Wars project before, the review bombers took to the internet before the show even had a chance to air.
I understand that it got review bombed to an insane degree by so many people who were hating on it just because of what seemed like internal prejudice.
Amanda Stenberg.
If review bombing was, I mean, real, to impact it to such a degree, how many movies or shows would have been canceled? I mean, would have died on the vine.
But they also failed to like bring up the fact that critics review bomb as well. I mean, if they're going to play that game, right? Giving it all these great reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. You don't think that's a review bomb?
Yeah.
Review love bomb?
It's so weird though, because it's like they can't conceptualize that it potentially just wasn't a good show and it didn't appeal to people. Because I think one of the things that women in these spaces forget is that just because it has women in it doesn't mean it appeals to women. Like I watch things all the time that have female leads and I go, I can't relate to these women at all. Why? Like, what do you mean? Like, they're not here because they're meaningful. They're here because they happen to have the correct anatomy. That's really depressing. That's such a depressing thing that they never consider.
It is. And if they had actually, it's like these people don't even take a second to think, wait a minute, that Disney made a show exactly for them. But where are they? It's the same thing with the Marvels. They made a show. Women didn't show up to the Marvels to watch Brie Larson. It was the guys who showed up. I'm like, this show sucks. That's pretty much it.
Yep. Well, you can only suspend your disbelief for so long, right? Like you can only suspend your disbelief with women flipping dudes around and being exceptional and everything for so long.
Exactly.
Like, wait a minute. You know what I mean?
It doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Who not only gave a phenomenal performance as Osha, but also as Princess May, had no choice but to stick up for themselves and defend herself against the vitriol and bigotry that she was receiving because Lucasfilm did not protect her.
We have to skip that. She always hits everybody.
Star Wars fans were divided, and by that I mean incels of the internet.
Oh my god, was there
enemies to
in that
lovers?
clip? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
there,
no.
The chirp of the. Was there the chirp of the what do you guys call it? The fire alarm? Did I hear that?
I don't know. Let me walk through it again. I didn't catch that one.
Change the batteries in your thing. Sorry, I just
Here, this one or during the video?
Yes. Did you
Managed
hear
to
it?
pull off
The
enemies
sharp.
to love.
Star Wars fans were divided, and by that I mean incels of the internet and of Twitter.
Managed to pull
Oh
off.
no, I'm
enemies
just
to lovers
insane.
so
Ignore
well.
me.
Lucasfilm
I was
didn't
gonna
do
be like,
anything
lady.
to protect the cast and the crew of the Acolyte.
Why can't the girls have?
How are they supposed to protect them? I'm curious. That's something they never say. Was Kathleen
what as
Kennedy?
well?
I know. Is she supposed to come out and go, "Hey, stop being mean, internet," or stop criticizing the show? I mean, what are you supposed to do to protect them?
And let's not forget, these aren't kids. These are grown ass people. These are grown ass adults. What do you mean protect them?
Do you feel, Sydney, that year after year, it's like people online have become more childlike? It's like I feel, let's say, even 10 years ago, people had thicker skin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're infantilizing people a lot more. And I think that there's this tendency to act as if particularly people in media don't have any sort of capability of handling negative feedback. But that's an entire tenet of their industry, right? Like when people make films and have been making films or participating on shows or whatever, it's high risk, high reward. I mean, you're either going to have people who love it or hate it. And if they hate it, you're going to know that they hated it. But I think in days gone by, people were just much more capable of handling that.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on that and say, man, back in the day in Hollywood, actors and actresses would get ripped to shreds by critics, ripped to shreds. And they just had to take it on the chin, man, and find their next gig.
Oh, yeah. Siskel and Ebert would destroy people.
Oh, they destroy people.
There was no two ways about it. And we have our next surprise guest coming up. Here he is. This is the guy who makes waves on YouTube all the time with his no-nonsense approach to common sense and politics. Say hello to Mr. Raygun. How you doing? Thank you for being on here.
Hello, George. It is a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. And I've not yet met Verbal Riot. I'm quite excited to meet this gentleman.
Yeah, definitely, man.
I am vaguely aware of Sydney Watson.
I think we met like once or twice, like a couple of years ago.
Actually, Raygun, we did hang out a little bit, but it was like in person with Chris Gore and Burbank. I forgot what movie we saw that night.
Yes.
Yeah, I just can't remember what movie it was. Night. I know it was a bad movie, but
I think you guys did. You guys watch The Marvels?
It might have been The Marvels. Yeah.
I didn't see it, but that was crazy. Somebody said it was okay.
What?
Oh no!
Like it was like an early screening, so we didn't get to actually review that review until much later. And I thought, who was it that said it was okay?
That one person.
The only thing I can say about the Marvels is, and I never thought in a million years I would say it, never, is when I was watching Amazon's Rings of Power, the first thought after 15 minutes was like, fuck, I miss the Marvels. I could not believe it. I was like, even Brie Larson. I was like, oh, there's something wrong with me.
What I actually enjoyed watching was Madam Web. Have you guys seen that?
Oh, I love that movie, man, but not in the right way.
Yeah, you like
it. It's so bad it's good thing.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Whoops, we lost him. He'll be right back. I'm sure he'll be right back. Mr. Raygun is doing us a surprise. He's going to come back on another day on the show, but he'll be back in a minute. So let's go back to this till he gets here. Where did we put it? We had the Acolyte.
Poor Chris. He loves being off mid-sentence. That's his
Let's finish this little diatribe.
Fun things for the girlies. Why?
But it just shows how fragile you guys are to storytelling.
And for the girls on board.
Leslie Headland was so dedicated as a fan of Star Wars.
No, she wasn't. She literally made a point of saying, oh my God, these people piss me off. She literally made a point of saying that she wasn't a Star Wars fan and she hired people who had nothing to do with Star Wars and had never seen it. She literally said that in interviews. Oh my God.
They forget history. And I think that's one of the problem with a lot of things today is things get memory hold. And so people go, oh no, she loves Star Wars because she wore that The Force is Female shirt. Okay, we have you back, Mr. Raygun.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. We were just watching this little rant, a collection from the Acolyte defenders who were upset after it got canceled.
All 6 of them?
Pretty much. Hey, they have 63,000 of them, I think, or 65,000 who signed a petition.
Yeah, but half of those are probably bots.
Yeah, probably Kathleen Kennedy or Leslie Headland.
Quote.
Just go to show though, there are like a handful of people that like aggressively care about this, and I do feel a little bit bad for them. But it's like, back a better story potentially. I don't know. Just make better choices about the things you support.
But you know how many shows that I've loved that got canceled? It's just nothing you can do about that. It just the ratings aren't there, and it can't continue.
That was like, did you guys ever watch Lucifer?
Oh, I was thinking that it was canceled from FX and then came back.
It was so well. That's also, I think, because the primary guy whose name escapes me now, the handsome British man, he went on this like rampage to get it reinstated and to get it remade. But that was one show that when it got canceled, I was like, I don't get it. This was so good. What do you all mean? But you know what I didn't do is I didn't cry about it on the internet or start a petition.
Right, because it was a show. You're like, a cool show.
Wait. You're saying the second tower didn't get hit?
I'm saying the second tower didn't get hit. Imagine making that claim about this show. Like, imagine that The Acolyte, is the show that you're going to say, oh no, this is our second tower. Like, lady.
That is cringe, man.
It is. It is. If I remember,
embarrassing.
I remember there was a bunch of commotion over Lucifer when it first came out. It was like 1 million moms or something. Some article was like 1 million moms against the devil, and I was like, it's a show, people. Like, it's a show.
And I'm looking that up. I want to know if that's like an. Oh, here. Do you remember when I just said it like you guys, moms wanted to cancel Lucifer before the pilot aired? I think it's interesting actually when you do have people who get really cross about even when villains get backstories and things, because they're like, stop humanizing bad entities and stop humanizing bad things. I had no idea that happened. I was such a massive fan of Lucifer too. That's so crazy. Like the show.
Yeah. No, I love the show. I thought the show was
important
great.
Distinction.
And then Netflix picked it up and saved it when Netflix actually used to do, try it.
And Sydney, you know somebody's going to clip that, right? They're going to clip that, and it's going to be like, Sydney says, "I love Lucifer."
Oh my god.
There you go. There you go.
Such is the life.
I think Mr. Reagan is back. So let's see. I think he's back here. Hold on. There we go.
I've been back. I've disappeared, and I've come back again. I unplugged everything and plugged it back in. So hopefully that'll work. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I think there's something short-circuiting. I don't know.
It's cool. It's cool. We were talking about Lucifer in between and how Sydney loves Lucifer.
Yeah,
the show.
I was like, I can hear you guys fine, actually.
Okay.
Are you having internet issues, Sydney? Your audio is coming from your camera. Oh, I don't know how to. I'm not very technical, guys. I don't know how to fix that.
Neither am I.
You're right. You're not. You don't have a clean mic. That's weird.
Is literally about people of color.
Ask me what I'm about to do.
Mr. Reagan, check your audio too, please. My audio is fine, bitch. Sorry.
He knows.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I mean, everything's set up right. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. Hey, we just keep going. It's like it is. It's live. It's fun.
It's a funnier way. It's a funnier way to talk back. I think, to be really extremely rude. I also find unrestrained, like unbridled arrogance very funny. So when somebody says something that I want to respond to it, like and it's about me, I'll be extremely arrogant to the point where most of the time, most people understand that it's a joke, but some people are just like, wow, I didn't know that about you, like,
they don't understand. They don't have that funny bone. They're like, you're being serious. No.
I guess. Yeah. I think everything should be jokes. I think we should just,
I agree.
Jokes bring people together,
Comedy. We used to have comedy in the world. And
we used to have comedy. When they got so sensitive, we couldn't make jokes about other races. I think that's actually when like racism started to become exacerbated. When you had like divides between the races. Back when we could make fun of each other, I think it was actually.
Oh, dude, I was talking about that last night on my live show. I was saying that, man, movies like Blazing Saddles and Porky's and movies like that back in the day that were just so raw and wrong, but we loved them because they were funny.
Stir Crazy,
Stir
Richard
Crazy.
Pryor. Oh my God!
You had Gene Wilder in blackface, and it was hilarious.
It was. Because we had people back then. I think comedy not only allows us to understand real issues, but it gives us thicker skin.
Yes.
Sorry guys, is my mic fixed or is it still coming from
No, you're good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
They were right. My mic was wrong as well. Sorry about the yelling.
You and I are a mess. This is nothing new though. In the entire time I've been friends with you, you and I are just the ones that are always like
I always start out my live stream by saying, this is the least professional live stream on all of the internets.
I like it. Let's see if these people, if they could finish what they're, I don't even know what to call it at this point. A temper tantrum?
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm about to cry. Thank you for asking.
It is a temper tantrum.
I don't care about what the incel said.
You guys bullied Amanda Stenberg so bad.
The Acolyte, it was kind of to be expected considering how it is set in the universe that has, if not one of then the most toxic fan base like ever.
To receive this news, I'm
gonna cry.
I like him.
I am mourning the fact that we're not getting any more Khmer edits because we're not going to get any more source material.
What do you mean?
What?
It wasn't bringing in the.
I don't know. I think they're just nuts. They have nothing better to do.
No, someone made a good point a couple of days ago where they said basically what Star Wars is now is they're catering to the shippers, right? The people who like to ship people. That's what the Star Wars sequels were about. It was all about the shipping, the Reylos, that whole thing. That's what it rings of power. That's what these people are catering to, are the shippers. The problem is those shippers are a very small percent, and that's why shows get canceled, and that's why movies bomb in the box office. It's because you're catering to this very small percent of people who probably don't even have the money to go watch these things anyway.
I don't know if that's the whole story, but that's probably so. I haven't actually heard that theory. It's an interesting theory, but I do think a lot of it is feminism and woke crap and diversity and all that. But the shipping thing is an interesting, little added extra that I didn't realize existed. But that's
if you look at the Acolyte, I mean, dude, the lead character Osha falls for the bad boy who just killed her friends the episode before, and that's all these people could talk about was him being naked and them having that scene together. That's all.
Have you seen him though? I'm sorry, but
sure, that's a good-looking man.
Hey, yeah,
I'm straight as hell, and I can tell you right now, that's a good-looking man. But still, that's not what Star Wars is about.
No, unless it's a sibling, then it's fine, right?
We got Tom here from Midnight's Edge. Tom, Sydney, Dante, Mr. Raygun, Tom.
I think Sydney's the only one I haven't met yet.
Well, hello.
Now
it's
you've
really
met.
good to meet you.
Hello.
Did y'all listen to the audio track from that episode where what was his name? Manny Jacinto's character was in the water. Did y'all listen to that?
Yes.
Have you? Oh, okay. Because it was like a Lifetime movie.
It was cringe, man.
Yeah. You really want to do this? You really want to be a bad girl? That's basically the whole vibe of it. Again, I get it. Like, as a woman watching him, I think he's very good looking, and so I was like, I get it. But also,
and then the narrator's like,
The
narrator's like, as Osha looks at his shaft. I'm like, what? What?
He enters the water. Yeah, it was crazy.
He comes out of the water glistening.
Yeah.
As Osha stares down at his. I'm like, what are we watching here?
Yeah. Again, I think women can look at it and be like, sexy man, but you're exactly right that it's 100% not Star Wars. And I mean, if they wanted to make some bizarre kind of Wattpad fan fiction about the light and dark getting together, okay, go for it, but not in a show form, just keep it to Wattpad. Write your fan fiction on the internet and leave it there in the corner, please.
I've been wanting to come up with another word for fan fiction because I was calling some of the Star Wars shows up for Disney. I was like,
crap.
That's fan fiction. But but something because it's like Rings of Power. Yeah. You can't call it fan fiction. Fans love the show or the content that they're basing it on, the canon. It's got to come up with something else.
Well, it's not my fault they got bad taste.
typically refer to it as I think cultural vandalism. I think is what they refer to it as.
Cultural vandalism. That's a good one. That's a good one.
So what's the issue with
I
the
think
word
that might be
fan fiction?
Doomboxing.
No, I
Because they're
like
not fans writing it.
Right. It's like
I think
Rings
he's
of
saying it's an
Power.
insult to fan fiction.
It is an insult to fan because, like Rings of Power, I remember the first season came out. People were calling it. I even did it a couple times. This is bad fan fiction. But the fact is, it wasn't even fan fiction because they don't care about Tolkien. They didn't care about the canon or anything. So I was like trying to find another way to say what it is besides shit.
Right, because like what Star Wars theory does is fan fiction, right? But he's a true fan, and so his fan fiction is actually based in the lore.
Yep.
So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like Acolyte. That's not even bad fan fiction. It's just
She wasn't a fan though. The writer wasn't even. I get what you're saying. Okay, so
Yeah.
hold on, I have a follow-up question. So if you have someone, right, who's like loves Star Wars, like watched a bunch of it, or like take anything, I don't know, take Harry Potter. Like someone's watched all the Harry Potter, and then they're like, you know what though, and it's gonna be a woman who does this, let's be real. She takes like Snape and she says Snape and Lily should have gotten together. I'm gonna write some fan fiction about that. Do you still think that that's fan fiction, even though she's taking something and making something else?
No,
that's
because
related to it?
if she sticks to the canon and is just expanding on it because she loves X characters, I can see that. I view like what Disney's doing is the same way what Amazon's doing. They're just using names from the canon. You know, it's like, okay, we're just taking the name Star Wars, the brand, slap it on here, and then show some kind of like intersectional social justice bingo show.
Yeah, it's IP hijacking. That's basically all it is.
Well, I mean, I think a good example would be like the earlier years of the MCU, right? Like they took an amalgamation of a lot of what the Marvel characters were and their events and stuff like that, and they kind of compressed them into versions of these characters, basically, right? Like the difference here is instead of using things that they could have drawn from, they're not. They're creating stuff out of no place, and they're destroying canon and they're destroying lore to where, like, you're right. Like normally when you think of fan fiction, at least fans generally have a love for or a respect for the lore, the characters, regardless if sometimes it's some cringy shipping or something like that. At least you can generally tell that they know and understand where they're coming from, as opposed to something like Leslie Headland, where she can't even answer the question, you know, which is her favorite Star Wars movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
they can actually do whatever they want. Really, I mean, they can destroy everything. But the way that you do it is you just do it really well. Like if you like, okay, Aquaman, right? Aquaman was like this blonde guy, right? This blonde white guy, and everybody hates race swapping. Like I hate race swapping. I think it's stupid. I always think you should write original characters. But nobody cared that Jason Momoa took over that role because he was great. You know, he was actually great, even though maybe it wasn't the best, you know, films ever. Yeah, well, yeah, it wasn't the greatest thing ever. He was still a star, you know, and so you didn't really, and nobody really cared that much about Aquaman anyway. Like you can actually destroy any IP that you want as long as you destroy it in a way that you create something better, right? If you are such a good writer that you are, you know, kind of like dismissing things that people have loved in the past, yeah, people will probably complain a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you're writing something even better, people will still love it. And nobody loves this. And the reason they don't love it is because it's terrible. That's
because they're not hiring writers, man. They're hiring activists. So these aren't even real writers in these writers' rooms.
Well, and the thing with Aquaman, I mean, that's a good point, Mr. Reagan, or whatever you want me to call you, Chris, whatever. But like, yeah, no, like, honestly, like, you're right, though. But like, the difference there is they were building upon a foundation of what Aquaman was before, right? Like, he still talks to fish. He still does all the stuff Aquaman. Well, yeah. I mean, basically, they're just building upon the character. They were modernizing him. They were making him the biker kind of version of that character. He still had all the same attributes that made him Aquaman at the end of the day. It just wasn't the joke he was before, right? Exactly. See that that's a great example because that's a character
I actually thought the same thing about Spider-Man because in the 70s, Spider-Man looked like he was 32, even though he wasn't really like, you know, in college or whatever. And then they cast Tobey Maguire because I guess he's got bug eyes or something. I don't know what the deal was with that, but
I just thought it because he looked 32.
No, not at the time. Tobey Maguire
No.
looked relatively young. He had like a baby face. But
Mm.
I never really liked Tobey Maguire in that role, but everybody bought it because they liked those movies, and that was that. I mean, they did a decent job making those Spider-Man movies, and so people liked them, even though I thought he was terribly miscast.
Wow. Well, we're talking about what they've been doing to films. We're going to get to Rings of Power in a second. But I had discovered this week what a lot of the gamers that I know have been talking about, Dustborn. Have y'all heard of Dustborn?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, Dustborn is supposed to be the wokest game ever created. To me, I'm fascinated by, not fascinated only, but I want to shine a light on how DEI and this kind of like woke mind virus has been able to go behind the scenes in so many industries. You have Kotaku just gave they were pissed off. So they said Dustborn developers condemn tidal wave of hate and abuse directed at the team.
Of course, Kotaku wrote that. Of course.
But look, before I show you any clips from it, look how it was originally announced when it was first introduced at this expo in 2020. I think it was 2021. They came out and they were saying, here we go. They came out and they were saying what the game was about. And I want to get Mr. Reagan's opinion on this. Well, everybody on the panel. Here we go. It says, Dustborn. PS5 interview, keeping hope alive in a world that hates you. This is what they're talking about, their inspiration. The idea behind Dustborn's setting characters was influenced by a series of political events that deeply affected us all, beginning in the summer of 2016 and continuing until today. They made a game to weaponize words because they were pissed at Trump. Wow. I never heard of a company spending this type of money.
Well, let's be honest about the money they got.
Well,
they got $1 million from, well, I'll let you tell it.
No, you can go ahead. It doesn't. And I wanted to show the clips first.
This was a government-sponsored game, man. The Norwegian government gave it $1 million.
Plus the
U.S. government gave it $250,000. Europe gave it $150,000. This was funded by 3 governments.
Right. Wait till we break down that. But I want people to see the clip first to get a taste of what it's like.
Fella you're with, the black kid, dresses like a writer. Does he know anything?
You are racist.
This looks terrible.
I know, but I'm worried about that kid.
That's the game, and it goes throughout the whole thing. Now here,
I want to see another clip.
Oh, you want to see another clip? Okay, here you go. Hold on.
This is hilarious.
Actually, if you want to see clips, I'd recommend watching. There's a YouTuber named Savvy Artist. She did a playthrough of the whole game, and she almost had a stroke playing this game, man. And it's hilarious to watch.
Yeah, Madam Savvy, she's been on it. She's awesome, and she's broken this down. But here's no more actual light. Well, actually, she has one more clip. I'll look for it in a second. But here we go. These are some prints. Cancel. We've learned how to cancel someone. Cancel will allow us to isolate people from their friends and compatriots in battle. This could be a useful tool against enemies. Normalize. We've learned how to normalize negative emotions. Normalize gives us the ability to make people think certain behaviors or feelings are normal, but I'm not sure it will do much for us in a fight. Here's another clip from Madam Savvy.
I'm sorry. Was that an inappropriate response?
Not at all. What he said. He said, "What are you, robot?"
I'm a robot. I don't have an assigned gender.
Good for you.
Oh my god.
How do we make s'mores?
You put a marshmallow on a stick.
She had enough.
Yeah, she couldn't take it. It's just
I wouldn't be able to do it either.
Why does this have a 7 out of 10 on Steam though? Like, what am I missing?
Go look at it. Go look at it though. I think there are what Grums was saying. I think there are only 30 players.
Oh yeah, I looked that up too. It's insane, man. Like the average game right now on Steam and Twitch, like even on Twitch, but on Steam especially. I like the First Descendant is an independent game from South Korea that came out around the same time as Dustborn. It's getting 50,000 watch hours. This game got 30.
Oh, okay. So like no one's actually playing it.
No one's playing it.
No.
Okay. Because I mean, even just again, like I'm just on Steam right now because I find it interesting what other people have to say, and all the recommended like top reviews are just people being like the top one says this game is aesthetically repulsive and an insult to the entire project of world civilization. Playing it for only 3 hours, I developed a terrible headache within the first. However, the US government provided the developers with a grant for $250,000 to combat misinformation. Oh no, and I support a free West. Okay, so that took a turn at the end there. But the point is, they didn't like it. I mean, these are like all the reviews are like, this is crap and I hate myself for playing it. But I just, yeah, who buys this? People buy this?
They do, but look, this comes from the U.S. Department of State. When you hear what they wanted, here's the program description. The U.S. Embassy, The Hague Public Affairs Section announces an open competition for organizations to submit applications, Asian, France, to develop and implement data collection and analysis methodologies for hosting a game to demonstrate the project's achievement of expected results, promote games to target audiences, and we go down here. Digital games have proven to be an effective tool in building cognitive resistance to disinformation across diverse environments and cultural contexts. The U.S. Embassy in The Hague is accepting proposals for the development of a digital game that incorporates active inoculation theory, along with other digital media literacy education methods. Yeah, and it goes on.
This is programming. They're trying to program the brains of kids. This is totally brainwashing is what this is. This is government-sanctioned brainwashing, government-paid-for brainwashing. That's shocking to me. This actually should be a much bigger story in the media that the federal government is actively attempting to brainwash children into being quote-unquote woke, which is...
Yeah, no, it's insane.
That is detestable.
It's an Antifa, basically a training game. It's a training manual. When you go through this and see what they want from it, where is it? The final version of the game intended ultimately for global audiences. The next translation will be produced for French speakers. Ideally, the proposed projects would be in-game surveys, methods. No. Where is it?
Guys, can we just develop a game like right now where you just play as Donald Trump mowing down Antifa members?
That would be popular.
You had to like the main bosses are like Hillary and
that would be. I would buy that game in a heartbeat.
At the end. Exactly, everybody would. Everybody would. That would be the best game. It would be like Contra, right? Except you're Trump. You get this big old gun, and the only place you get shot is in the ear.
Oh,
your only vulnerable spot.
But does it shock you that you have the U.S. and the EU funding a game that's...
It's not just shocking, man. It's scary, man. This is scary.
Funding it because they're calling it disinformation, but they're programming people. I was looking up. I had never heard of the active inoculation theory. And I was like, wow. They are literally programming, I guess, push-button serfs at their command.
I absolutely hate that the creators of this game, who are called Red Thread Games, their CEO, I'm so curious about this, but their CEO has such a badass sounding name, and he looks he looks exactly how you would expect someone to make a game like this would look.
Okay.
And I'm very upset because his name is Ragnar. I don't know how to pronounce this in Norwegian, but it's spelled like Tornkist, which looks, I don't know.
Ragnar.
So your name's Ragnar and you're creating this? Like, come on. I hate
and there's there was one of the developers, the software developers, who I can't remember her name offhand, but she put out a tweet about the fact that she loves the fact that, you know, they're going to continue to push this narrative. They're going to put, you know, more trans people in the game. They're going to go after, you know, cis people, and she just went on a rampage. And then she blocked all her, she protected all her tweets after that, but she works for that company.
Well, Red Thread Games put this out yesterday because they're tired of all the attacks. A message from Red Thread to our community. To our community, since we first announced Dustborn, we've read your comments and listened to your feedback, hopes, and wishes for the game. Over the past 4 years, our team has poured their hearts into telling a story that's deeply meaningful to us. A story about the power of words, about building a world where everyone can feel safe, about love, friendship, and robots, of course. We expected Dustborn to spark conversation, debate, and looked forward to engaging with our players in a positive and constructive fashion. Unfortunately, that conversation has been drowned out by a tidal wave of hate and abuse.
It's so tiring, man.
Criticism,
So tiring.
It is.
Criti-
It's tiring, is exactly.
no such thing as guaranteed support from anyone. Like nobody, they're not owed your money or your positivity or your endorsement.
I think
Well, you know,
again, this
it-
is the same. Oh, sorry, you go, Chris. You're much
I
more
was just
clever
gonna.
than I am.
No. That's patronizing, actually. But
Well, I meant it, but now I take it back. You can go and kick rocks.
Exactly. You know, I look. This is the default setting, right? It's like I'm gonna play a victim. I'm gonna do something that is probably going to be crap, but nobody's allowed to criticize me because I'm on the left and I've done diversity and I've done gender and I've done gay crap, and therefore, because I have all this diverse crap in here, anybody that criticizes me, they're a bigot, they're racist, they're sexist, they're homophobic, whatever it might be. They do this victim thing. I don't know. I don't know if that was planned from the beginning, but I think it is something that's very tempting for people, because it's so easy to say, I'm not crap at anything. I'm amazing. I'm fucking amazing at everything I do is fucking perfect. And the only reason that anybody would ever say anything bad about me is if you have a problem. You're a bigot. You're a hateful person. It kind of shields you not just from the criticism of others. It shields you from your own self-reflection. Like, you never have to look at yourself and think, did I actually do something bad? Did I actually do something that wasn't like at the level of quality that I could do? Do I ever have to improve? No, I don't, because I'm perfect. Okay,
Well,
so
and I've been saying this for a while now, man. Like, this whole thing, look, for the longest time, white liberals have only been minority adjacent, right? But since this whole trans thing popped off, well, now they can call themselves minorities. Now they can call themselves marginalized. I had a white trans woman, a white man basically, look me in my eye and tell me I don't know what it's like to be a marginalized person.
What?
I was, for the first time in my life, I was silent. I was silent. I was like, wow. How do I respond to that? I'm like, are you serious? Like, dude, you lived your whole life in this country as a white man up until 3 years ago. Really?
I think it's actually even worse than what you're saying, though, because it's not just the trans thing now. You could be anything. You could be gender non-binary.
Sure, but now they can call themselves minorities now, and I'm telling you, man, that is like cocaine for the white liberal to be able to call yourself a minority finally after all these years, right? Because, like I said, they've only been minority adjacent up until now.
That's genius. I hadn't thought of that. That's absolutely true, because they're always trying to fight for civil rights, even when civil rights aren't necessary. I call it civil rights cosplay.
Even when we don't ask them to, we never ask them to speak for us, and they feel entitled to do that.
They
And now
want to
they're
march
pushing
in the
around.
civil rights movement. There's no civil rights movement to march in, so they have to invent stuff, right? But what they've been able to do by inventing all these new subcategories of marginalized groups is they've actually created groups that they can be in. You make so much sense. You're absolutely right. I mean, which of those people who thrives in this environment of victimhood wouldn't want to then be a victim, wouldn't want to jump into one of those categories? Yeah, 100%. Brilliant observation.
So what you're saying is basically they got tired of not being able to be included. So they
it's always the bride, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? I mean, that's what it is.
Wow,
I was going to say just before, to your point, and I know that we're not talking about the trans issue, but this reminds me of how, I don't know if you guys have seen, I don't know if you orbit like the gender critical space at all, but I kind of live there. And this thing is popping off at the moment where there's some OnlyFans creators who are women who are pretending to be trans, and there are these trans people who are, because they realize they can make a ton of money this way. There are these trans people who are like, my gender is not your costume, and it just, what you're kind of talking about reminds me of that, but from like the perspective of, as a woman, I'm like, well, my sex is not your costume, and now they're so mad at these people who are pretending to be trans. So it's like, I know it's not super related, but that's what it made me immediately think of, is just how stupid everybody is when it comes to these to their victim hierarchy.
I actually thought it was. I had it loaded ready. I was like, I think it fits perfectly into that, because here they are. They're sitting here and they're getting attacked from so many trans groups because of the fact that they're saying you're pretending to be something you're not. And that when I read that, I was like, excuse me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Women pretending to be men, pretending to be women.
Yes. Yes.
I remember
And-
that song, Girls Who Are Boys, Who Like Boys, Who Are Girls, Who Are Girls, Who Like Boys, Who Do Boys because they're girls.
And the
just
guys
crazy
who are
watching it
pretending to
play
be
out.
women are like, whoa, 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 whoa. You can't be girls pretending to be boys, pretending to be women. That's offensive to us boys trying to pretend to be women. It's such a weird thing, right? It's like you can only be one gender removed. Otherwise, it's somehow
Well, it's like
wrong.
the comedian steals another comedian's joke, right? I mean, you can't do that.
Yeah, my new favorite is a man who is a trans woman who is a lesbian. That's my favorite one.
Wait, say that again. A man.
A man who is now a trans woman who is a lesbian.
They're my favorites too. That's just straight with that. I love that. It's fun. I have a couple gay friends, gay female friends, and they hate dating because they're like, they are attracted to female anatomy. They're attracted
I've heard this.
to women.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they are lesbians. And so when they get on the dating apps and they've showed me, they're like, look how grim this is. And it's just men, really. It's just men. And so they're always like, you are so lucky to be straight because you don't have to contend with this. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's one way of putting it, but alrighty then. I mean, I love men, so maybe I wouldn't be that upset.
It's
But
like,
no, it's so bad for them.
Well, we got Robert, my Burnett just jumped in here.
Robert!
Hello.
Sorry, Sydney. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert,
Been
Mr.
watching it
Resident.
for years and years. It's nice to stream with you.
Nice to meet you. You have a very fancy, cool name. I'm a little jealous.
Oh, well, it's funny. There's another Rob Burnett that was much more famous and successful than I was. And when you start getting credited on movies, they tell you to try and do something else with your name if it matches someone else's. So I figured, well, I'm going to add my middle name to it.
Yeah, but see, Rob, we don't care about the other Rob Burnett. We only care about you.
Oh, by the way, happy
I
birthday.
appreciate that.
Happy birthday, Robert.
Okay.
And happy birthday.
Sydney's
again.
like, is it your birthday? No, it is not.
It is.
It's his birthday every day.
Every day. Thanks to the people that watch the show. I'm sorry to interrupt the flow.
good.
Verbal,
but
good to see you.
Good to see you too,
Ray,
mate.
good to see you. Tom, good to see you.
Always good to see you. Actually, I have this
George.
clip real quick if you wanted to share it, George. It goes along with what Verbal and you guys were just talking about before. I think I shared this before, but I don't think everybody on the panel's seen it. Real quick, it's like a minute from Siskel and Ebert back in 1988.
Okay.
Where they're talking about the reaction to Mississippi burning. And it just shows you how far removed we've gotten, right? Because it's like they're acting like civil rights and stuff was like yesterday.
Right.
When back in 1988, there was kids already going, was things really that bad? And if you want to just bring up the clip here in the background here, so I can play it. Whoop, there we go.
One of the strange things is that when some of the Vietnam movies came out a few years ago, like Platoon, the prime movie-going generation, which is, let's say, between 17 and 25, were really not familiar firsthand with the Vietnam War at all. It's the same with the Civil Rights movement.
No question.
I went to see this movie to screenings, and people were walking out saying, were things really like that, in America? And I'm saying, this was so recently that the cars are still on the road. This was 24 years ago. That's how much things have changed. People need to know that.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you kind of get the point there, we had already come pretty far by 1988, and they're taking us so far back now lately with all this crap. It just reminded me of that when you guys were talking about that earlier. I just wanted to bring that up real quick.
Can I say real quick the reason why they do this? I think the reason why they do this is because you can basically, in politics, you can basically monetize any kind of tragedy, any kind of problem, right? And I think that's why they like the homeless in these big cities, because they can say, give us billions of dollars in tax money to, fix the homeless problem, and then they just steal the money, right? That's why they don't fix the border, because they go, oh, we'll fix the border problem. We'll just send money at it. It's a scheme to give money to their buddies and to get kickbacks and all that kind of stuff. I think it's corrupt politicians just stealing money. And the same thing is true of race. If you can say we have a race problem in America, we're going to give a bunch of money to this problem, then you can steal the money. There's so much to be gained if you're a very sinister person from creating problems in the culture. And that's why I think they do it. And they also want the divide because they get votes that way. You know, I think people are starting to wise up, though.
Well, that's how Black Lives Matter got started, man. It was like that one little incident that happened with Michael Brown, and then from there it became the grift. You know, and a lot of people bought into it.
But think about it. What Mr. Reagan was just saying. You have in California talking about giving millions away. There's a bill on Newsom's desk now to give $150,000 to every illegal, and they don't have to pay it back to buy a home until they sell the home. There's no payment, no monthly payment, no interest rate. When they sell the home, they have to pay back the amount plus 20%. So that means they're basically giving them $150,000 for a home.
Well, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's also been there's protesting happening at the Capitol right now in California by Black people
about the
because of the fact that, you know, they constantly say they have no money for reparations, right? Mm-hmm. But they're willing to give people who aren't even citizens of this country $150,000 each to buy a home.
Right. Because you know what that means. You're going to get a family and each one of them is going to get a home. They're not going to sell those because you have to pay it back. I mean, it's insane.
Even with that, though, it doesn't matter. The fact that these people are not citizens of this country, they should not be getting anything. Not even healthcare. I'm sorry, but no, not even healthcare.
100%. But you had Nancy Pelosi Friday night on Bill Maher. He kept asking her that question. You know what her response was? The American dream means everybody can get a home. We're not giving. He was like, these are undocumented. He didn't say
not
illegal.
In California.
And he's like the undocumented. We're giving money to the undocumented. She's like, we're giving them the chance to fulfill the American dream. I'm like,
the problem is the Americans can't fulfill the American dream, George. That's the fucking problem.
I agree.
Right? Like I've been wanting to buy a house for years. Yep. It's damn near impossible.
If people knew what a shit show California is right now, like really, man, it would just shock you. Like people are leaving by the droves, and I understand why. And believe me, as soon as I can find a way out, I'm out. Because it is not good here, man.
I don't understand the whole reparations thing in California. California didn't have slavery.
But it's not even about reparations. The point that you're giving our money away to people who aren't even citizens of this country.
Oh, I 100% agree. I was just always curious how the whole reparations thing in California started. It's kind of it's nuts.
I mean, practically, I don't even know how you would do reparations at this point. Like it's maybe I just don't have the mind for it, but I don't even know how that would even work.
Well, listen, I escaped California. You were welcome to join me in Bali. I keep trying to get me to come, and she refuses. But I'm hanging out here on the other side of the world. It's fantastic.
It must be nice.
You're on my side of the planet, the good side of the planet.
I am.
Not that this is not the good side of the planet, but the better side of the planet. Don't fight me, guys.
It's actually the same quarter because it's the southern hemisphere as well.
No, but it's my side of the planet. You're closer to Australia than you are to the United States.
Yeah, I lived in Australia for a year. I loved it.
Australia is awesome. Call me utopia, but
I did find a huntsman in the shower, which was one of the most terrifying moments of my life.
Yeah. They're so cute though. They're like, they just
look like aliens.
and they can fly.
I thought for a second you had Chris Hemsworth in your freaking. Oh, never mind. I was thinking a different kind of huntsman.
Yeah.
No, dude. Here's the thing. Everything in Australia.
Sorry, Robert.
Okay, so I'll say this, right? Like I live in Texas. I live in Dallas, and people always say to me when they meet me, "Oh, well, you're from Australia though, right? So like, you're from the land of crazy bugs and spiders and snakes and everything is poisonous." And you're not wrong. Like there is absolutely that to a large extent. However, have I ever seen wasps as big as in Dallas, Texas? The fuck not. I haven't. Have I ever seen bugs that just attack you doing nothing? Yes, now I have experienced having literal hives from getting bitten by bugs in this country. So let me tell you, Texan bugs are way scarier to me than the Aussie ones. The Aussie ones
everything's bigger in Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas. It's just the way it is, But that's not biting you. That's called love. That's Texas love.
Just little love nips, right? Like me with hives.
These are real Texan now.
It's called building character.
There you go. And the mosquitoes. The only thing I hate about Texas is that damn heat and the mosquitoes.
Oh, the heat. Yeah.
If Texas didn't have the heat that we have here around Houston, I would be this paradise. But no.
So it's really humid in Houston, isn't it? Like that's kind of one of the.
They built it on the swamp.
Yeah, we don't have that. We have, I think, really temperate. And when I say temperate, I mean like it gets up to like I was gonna say in Celsius, and you guys would be like, what? Yeah, but up into the 90s. But like, it's just beautiful in the evenings. I don't know. The bugs, I don't. No, thank you. I'm good. I don't
You all
really
have snakes up there too. Got
snakes
rattlers.
in Dallas.
Yeah, typically around the.
Yeah, there's like lots of copperheads, water moccasins, because
Jesus.
we live sort of near a lake a little bit. So yeah, there's like, but they're not as scary as the Aussie ones, right? Because like an Aussie one, if you get bitten, say you're like, I want to go to Central Australia, and you get bitten by like a taipan, you're 100% going to die. Like 100%. No joke.
You only get bitten once, though. That's the good thing.
That is true. And then you wander off into the bush and just pass
you're
away.
done, yeah.
So
Let me just say to the audience real quick, I am so sorry for telling the Huntsman story. I did not expect it to turn into this.
yeah, I'll shush about my side of the planet. I love Australia, man. That's it.
A lot of Greeks in Australia. I have cousins there. I haven't been there yet. I was like, one day I'm gonna go, but there are a lot of Greeks there. But we were
we
talking.
have the biggest population outside of Greece. All right, I'll stop talking about
No.
No.
Cool. Are they in Perth? Are they in Sydney or
Melbourne predominantly? I would say. I think the next biggest group is in WA, is in Perth. So, yes.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that. Well, we were talking earlier about people pretending to be other people. We're talking about the trans issue. And I just had to pull this up because this was beautiful, what Sydney did. It's talking about someone pretending to be something that they're not. And Raygun, pretended to be an Olympic athlete.
Oh, what was this?
I know. But then Sydney.
Fantastic video, Sydney.
But Sydney did it better.
Well,
hopping around like a kangaroo, I think.
It's lit. Just take a look at the drip. You boys don't get fired in this. Roll a dope, yeah,
You're too good.
Oh my god, I'm so
In
talented.
my video, I discussed
You're
the
too good.
elements and tried to.
My favorite
I'd
clip
give
I
you at least a
included in
3.
this- Oh, good. Thank you. 3 points. That's better. That's more than she got.
That's what I was saying.
I included a clip where there's no music and it's just me like just being weird on the floor. And I was like, I hate myself so much. People are
She
gonna
was
watch
so
this and
bad
think
they
I'm, like,
took the event out of the Olympics. It is no longer any Olympic event.
I'm
Not
surprised there
according to
wasn't
Sydney
more
Watson.
outcry.
So you know what's interesting about this? So I didn't realize, because I hadn't thought about it. I have a friend who dances professionally, and he hit me up and he was like, "Oh, I have a thing to tell you about the WDSF, like the World Dance Sport Federation, who got her included basically in the Olympics." And he's like, "This is so much deeper than you realize." And I was like, "Oh my god!" So it's actually like a full blown conspiracy in the dance world. If that makes sense.
I like, from what I heard, she took like spots away from like more qualified low income like dancers, like that kind of thing, because her husband is on the board of the dance committee for the Olympics.
I don't know about that. I don't know how much he has to do with it, but I definitely know that there was a lot of emphasis placed on getting, because what they really want to do is have ballroom in the Olympics, but it's still, people get so mad at me for saying this, but dancing is not a sport. Like, I'm sorry, it's not. You can be competitive, but it's not a sport. It's not remotely on the same level. But they really want to get ballroom in. And so the way to do that was through breakdancing. And I have no idea like what her husband's deal is with the whole thing. But when they basically uplifted her, apparently they gave her like a ton of money. But that's all hush hush. Apparently that's all rumors. You can't prove any of it. Apparently the World Dance Sport Federation, that's so hard to say, are like a bit of a shady little enterprise. So
they went too far with rhythmic gymnastics. That was going too far. They're throwing ribbons around like they're at a freaking parade. I mean, that was dumb. Going to breakdancing. And
I agree.
I'm glad Raygun came out there because it basically showed, what the hell are we doing here?
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, what's the next fad to be an Olympic sport, right? Like Rubik's Cube?
Yeah.
But
I mean, you joke, but
great break dancers though are amazing.
Yeah, they're great.
It's an amazing art form, and it really is.
So is acting. We get Morgan Freeman into the Olympics also. Have him like read a script. It's like, it's sometimes it's very stressful. We'll see which actor can do the best stunts. Like,
I think they should do improv competitions in the Olympics. Why not? Let's do it.
Is it anyway in the Olympics though? Yeah.
It's kind of sad actually when you
George
think
is
about
muted
it.
and he doesn't know it, and he's talking
I'm mute. Yeah, for some reason it was. Yeah, everybody meet Joe from Good Logic.
What's going on, Joe?
Sydney, everybody. Okay, we want to read some super chats because they have some questions for our panel. We're going to read them real quick and then move on. Rita Swinney became a YouTube member. Thank you, Rita, for joining Georgia Giant Slayer and helping us grow. Then we have Mexican Iron Man for $10. He sent in a super sticker, whatever it is. I thank you. Aaron Charman became a YouTube member. Hey, this is how we keep growing, getting your voice out there. Thank you, Aaron. And we have Princess Fiona, a member for a month. We relate to characters, not races or genders. Yeah, I hate gender and race swapping. I think it's crazy. Stick to the canon. Thank you, Princess Fiona. Darth Maul's lower half for €5. I blame the Big Bang Theory for nerds becoming more socially accepted, but also for making nerd culture mainstream. Now it's overrun by tourists. Oh.
It wasn't Big Bang Theory, by the way. It was Iron Man that brought everybody to the table.
You reckon?
Yeah. Yeah. Like and Robert and R&B can attest to this, man. Comic-Con back in the day, San Diego Comic-Con, which is basically nerdy graw. Before Iron Man, it was literally just a convention for nerds. That was it. Once Iron Man became big and people saw that, hey, this Marvel stuff is kind of cool, that's when it began. And then, you bring in Twilight and all the other stuff that's took over Comic-Con.
I agree. That was kind of ground zero. Yeah.
Yeah, but Iron Man was ground zero. For sure.
It was an evolution. I mean, what was really interesting was when I started going to Comic-Con, it was just dudes rifling through long boxes of comic books that were mumbling to themselves. and what happened was we saw. I mean, first of all, I would say video games did was bring girls into the culture, and anime, things like Sailor Moon.
You want to drink some water before you choke? Take a break.
No, it's like, but Sailor Moon and there was just material that started bringing more and more people in, and it was good to see. Now it was no longer such the sausage fest that it was like in the late 80s. You have multi-generations of families, and there's just a lot more genre material, science fiction, fantasy, and horror, comics, animation. There's just a lot more of it. And all of it went mainstream, but the MCU really solidified the same way that Star Wars did, really solidified. It brought in everybody.
What about this take on that? And what you're just saying, though, it's not just that there's more of a selection and perhaps it becomes more mainstream when you're dealing with MCU becoming what MCU became. But is it possible that our culture today has such depression issues, such issues with anxiety and self-hatred, that escapism, there's a much larger market for escapism, and there's no more stronger escapism than actually losing yourself into becoming a character rather than just watching the screen and following, comic books or whatever, but now you're actually partaking in it and making it more of your life. And I think that there's a much greater market for today than there was, let's say, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when mental health wasn't quite pushed to the brink that it has been pushed by.
But I think that there's definitely an element of that.
Yeah.
Because for me, what's interesting is when I was growing up, as much as I loved Star Trek and the Twilight Zone and Star Wars when it came out, I also liked other things that weren't flights of fancy. My favorite movies, I mean, I was a Godfather fan. I love Stanley Kubrick movies. I didn't love, my favorite movies were not flights of fancy. They were not horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. And I think you're absolutely right. And also another thing that's happened is our culture has been incredibly infantilized.
Yeah, we're talking about
kids are kids until they're men are kids till they're 50 years old. I can attest to that.
You know what I think has happened really is that we work a lot less. I think what's happened is work has become a lot less demanding. We're not in the coal mines anymore. We're on the computer for a few hours a day or something like that, depending on what your job is. Some people just live off the government. They don't work at all. Some people, their parents still take care of them. They're like 30, so different people, like a lot of people have so much free time, they can do whatever they want. And the internet allows you to specialize in your hobbies.
Yeah.
And so people are just becoming hyper obsessed with certain things. Like out here, people are hyper obsessed with fitness, like to a degree that is, I think, almost unhealthy. And in different places, people get different ideas. I think a lot of nerdy guys, this is my theory about nerdy guys who are older, like 40 and plus. What happens is you remember a good time in your life that was like, maybe the best time in your life ever. And that time in your life was maybe whatever it was, the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. And so what do? You collect the toys from that time. You get some paraphernalia from that time, and you remember that time. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that per se, but it's just technology allows us to do it. Like, Robert Meyer Burnett has an incredible toy collection behind him. I don't even know if that would have been possible to collect that in the 90s. You know what I mean? Like,
They
it's
wouldn't
not
know. They
until-
wouldn't. They don't make the adult collectors, like you were saying, the stuff we wanted. They never made it, and now they're making it. For me, I collect things mostly because they're representative. They fuel my creative interests, and I was a fan of. I was working in the film business and making entertainment, so every character is somebody, an actor, a writer created that character, a costume designer designed that character. So it's, for me, they're as much representations of other people's creativity that I aspire to reach, as opposed to, in addition to being awesome toys.
So it has layered meanings. It has layered meanings to you.
Yeah, it does.
And maybe I'm just projecting my own psychology on the people. Can I just say the best thing that ever happened to me the other day? So none of us can ever really be Indiana Jones, right? But out here, there's a cafe just down the street here where there's this kid, Indonesian kid, that looks exactly like Short Round from Temple of Doom. So I call him. So ever since I met this kid several months back, I started calling him
Mr. Reagan! Mr. Reagan!
No, I told him, I'm going to call you Short Round. You call me Dr. Jones. Every single day I go into this cafe, he goes, "Good morning, Dr. Jones." And the other day, there was a cockroach in the kitchen, and this kid freaked out. He can't stand the cockroaches, right? So I grabbed a paper towel, grabbed up the cockroach, threw it in the garbage, whatever. And I kid you not, this is unprompted. I wish I had recorded it because it's one of the greatest things anyone's ever said to me. He goes, "Thank you, Dr. Jones. You have saved us all."
I love it. See, Darth Maul's lower half, what kind of a conversation you start. Thank you. Thank you, Darth Maul's lower half, for that super chat. Let's keep going. We'll wrap these up so we can move on. We got Skiz Spivak for $14. Hail, George and guests. Hailed all the guests. Thank you, Skiz. Always here. Appreciate it. Angela Richter, member for 7 months. They are only copying Lord of the Rings movies. I wish it was only copying. They have butchered the shit out of it at this point. I missed the Marvels while I was watching Rings of Power. But thank you, Angela. John Maynard for $5. Let's look at the race swap in Shawshank Redemption with Red. Mr. Freeman did an excellent job, and we did mine. Yeah, but it's Morgan Freeman. I mean, that's like saying Denzel Washington. Those two guys can do anything. It doesn't matter. They're incredible. Thank you, John Maynard. Good point. Fantastic Mr. Knox for $2 Australian. 25,000 Concord copies sold, still blaming everyone. Yep, that's what they do. People got to blame people. Mexican Iron Man for another $5. I want to know what Chris misses most about California and what frustrates RMB most about the once great state of California. Great questions. Mr. Reagan?
I'll let RMB go first.
All right.
All right. Okay. So we have a severe homeless problem here in this state, and they'll pass levies and they'll get all this money, billions of dollars, to build housing. The problem is then everybody gets a taste of that money. All the contractors, everybody wants to get paid what their rates are. So low-income housing costs $800,000 to build, and then it doesn't get done. And really what we have to do is focus on the underlying problems of homelessness, which is addiction, mental illness. But there's no profit, because all you're going to have is money going out, spending money on people that can care for these people, places to put them while they're getting care, and nobody wants to do it. So the real hard choice, or the real hard decisions, is to do something that isn't profitable, that we're going to be spending tax dollars to help people, but we won't do that. And so our homeless population it just grows unabated. And it's incredibly frustrating to watch this happen. And I think across America, I mean, money is great, but we have to sometimes think about the public good. Sometimes the money is worth spending. And it's becoming, I mean, Los Angeles, especially Hollywood, is I'm just shocked.
Oh, it's a shit show.
I mean, I lived in Hollywood for 25 years, and I cannot believe what has been allowed to happen. And it's because nobody really wants to solve the problem.
And if you're a politician, you either need to solve problems, or to get reelected, you need to say we helped raise $20 billion for homelessness. So even if it's not actually helping homelessness, it becomes part of an accomplishment that you as a politician have done, that you've implemented a terrible policy, thrown money at it, but look at how noble our efforts were, even though they were foolish from the get-go.
Pretended to throw money at it, really just stole the money, probably.
Yeah, that's certainly true. But it becomes part of their platform. Like, look at my accomplishments. This is what I've done. I've raised $20 billion for the homeless. That's how they look. That's how they'll praise it.
And that's what makes what we were talking about before so disgusting, is that, you know, these illegal immigrants will get all the help they need to get a house, get all, you know, while we have a housing crisis basically going on, and people can't afford to pay rent, let alone buy a house or anything else right now. But yet you're just giving houses away to illegal immigrants. Yeah. When what Robert is talking about is right there. Is like, where's the sacrifice for the American people? Like, that's something we have never really seen the truth of. Like, all these people are crying, they want like this, that, and the other, but it always comes with a price, as you guys were just pointing out, right? So at the end of the day, when are they ever going to do that for us instead of all these other people elsewhere, right? And this is where I think people are starting to come, you know, inside with Trump. And I just had this conversation somewhat this morning with somebody too about, because they're like, well, how can you even stand him, and how can you even be behind him, and he's so selfish? It's like, maybe we need to be a little selfish right now. You know, for the last 30, 40 years, we've done nothing but give. But God forbid, if something were to happen to us tomorrow, who would be there to help America?
Right. Yeah. So that's a good point. But Chris, so what do you miss about California? That was part of the super chat.
Nothing. We can move on.
Well, okay. That was it. Perfect. Straight to the point.
I met Sydney at a party in Los Angeles, actually.
Oh,
but otherwise,
We did. Yeah, we did. That was many, many moons ago.
Sydney, do you miss anything about Australia since moving?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe a little bit different from when you move to a different state within your same country. I love Texas and I love the United States, and I think there's some uniquely wonderful things about Americans. Like, you guys are so wonderfully supportive of other Americans, just other people generally. Like, you love with your whole hearts, and I think that's really cool. I know that sounds really gay, but it's the truth. You guys are like the nicest people. But the things I miss about back home largely revolve around, you know, obviously my family, because my whole family's there. I miss them a lot. And it's weird. I miss some of the nanny state stuff, which I know sounds crazy, but there's some laws and regulations back home that Americans don't have that I think is insane. Like, for example, data brokers don't like exist in Australia. You can't just like rip people's information from public records and then sell it. That's not a thing. You can't do that, but you can do that here. Like, stuff like that.
What are you saying? Data brokers?
Data brokers.
Data brokers. Yeah, data brokers. Like, you can take. Like,
I literally thought you
stuff.
said daughter brokers, and I was like, daughter brokers? What the hell?
She has
people who sell children.
A very, very slight Australian accent still.
Yeah,
just
I'm sorry.
vaguely.
So you're saying the fact that we have data brokers here is gross?
I think it's awful. Like,
I agree with you totally.
Everything is so.
He's saying that in
capitalistic.
Australia it's regulated there. So
yeah, I mean, and even things, again, you guys are going to bully me for this, but even like, for example, I kind of miss the socialized medicine.
Whoa.
I know it couldn't work in the United States because your population is too large and too messed up, but, you know, I miss that it didn't cost me $1 bajillion to go to the doctor and get a prescription. I miss things like that. And obviously I miss the Aussie food, because Aussie food is very good.
I will say, we have
here.
Aussie food. We have Aussie food here in Bali, because there's a lot of Aussies here, so you get Aussie restaurants.
Tons of Australians in Bali, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You're seeing all
but,
the drunk
look,
fit
I
ones,
think,
yeah.
It's true, yeah. I think socialized stuff can work reasonably well in monocultures that are very specifically hardworking and honorable. If you have a culture that's hardworking and honorable, you can actually have more social programs because people won't abuse them. It's when you bring in immigrants from regions where they are not hardworking and honorable, and their idea is, oh, if we rip off the government, we're smart. That's when you start having a problem. That happened in Sweden. That's happened in many countries, actually.
The UK.
Yeah, they've had these very generous social programs, and they bring in people from other countries whose their ethic is, anytime the government gives you something, you need to take it, whether or not you deserve it, because that's just how they function. that's how their culture functions, then you bankrupt your country essentially. So
and we do have a huge problem with that, man. I remember I have a cousin who he's through some very hard living, is now on dialysis, and he's not in great shape by any means. So I went with him to one of the because I didn't want him to go by himself. I went with him to one of the welfare offices here in California, in LA, for him to get on food stamps and all these other things, just because he's he needs it. And as I'm sitting there on my phone, I'm just looking around at the people who are there, and I mean, these people are wearing like shoes I can't even afford. Right? These are people mooching off the government. I mean, iPhone, the most recent iPhones, right? Driving pretty decent cars. And I'm like, and these are the people here to get help. And I'm like,
certain corners of American culture should not be getting. We shouldn't
government
have
assistance. I mean, they shouldn't. But that's the thing. It's like they know how to scam the system, though.
Yeah.
And those are, and by the way, those were citizens. So now you have illegals who are coming in
doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think that boils it down. I think what you said boils it down perfectly. It's we have too many scammers in America for it to work, for social programs to work. But in other countries where they don't have so many sinister people, but places that are honorable and hardworking, social programs will work. That's basically.
I think you also have. In America, there's a lot of competing cultures and ideologies and views and all these type of things. Right. Whereas I can say this, that Australia is a very much, and again, some people might disagree with this, but I think, at least when I left, maybe it's changed a lot in the last 5 years, but Australia is very much a monoculture. People behave the same way when people move to Australia. By and large, people do assimilate very well, even if they're from China or wherever. And so I think that definitely plays a role in making Australia a lot more homogenized, for lack of a better term, because we do have a big population, particularly in cities like where I'm from, like Melbourne and whatnot, where you do have like a big immigrant population. And again, when I left, it was pretty chill. Like everyone just kind of did their thing and got along. And so, I mean, just back to the socialized thing, you have also a population that's 15, 16 times less from the United States. So we have 27 million people in Australia, same land mass as mainland United States. So it's a big country with a very small population, and most people will pay into the system. They don't really means test. I mean, they do means test you out of a ton of stuff, but not as much as I would say in the United States. Like, I don't have health insurance here because I think it's a scam and I think it's a ripoff, and it's literally cheaper for me to pay for things out of pocket than to have health insurance.
Wow.
There's a couple of things I really love about Australia. This Australian culture. I've known a lot of Australians. They seem like Oregonians. I'm from Oregon originally, which is that they're kind of no bullshit people, and they're very pragmatic. And because of that, they have the best reality TV shows. And the reason they have the best reality TV shows, it's true, because they don't necessarily cast based on like your immutable characteristics, whether you're gay or a woman or black or whatever it is. They tend to cast for these reality shows based on just who would be the most interesting contestants. So I almost exclusively watch Australian reality shows. I won't watch reality shows from anywhere else almost. If you want to watch a great reality show, watch one from Australia.
Yeah, I watched Love Island Australia, and I gotta tell you, it's buck wild, man. I've never seen more ass on a reality show than that show.
I haven't seen that one.
I have a recommendation for all of you guys. If you want to watch a really bad Aussie show, you have to watch The Shire. They tried to do a version of Christ, what was the one with Snooki and the cabs you hear? What show was that?
Jersey Shore.
They tried to do a version of that back home, and I think it lasted a couple episodes, and maybe even just like one or two, and then they canceled it because people were like, "What is this? What is this?" Nonsense?
Wait, it's called The Shire.
The Shire, yeah. I don't have any words. I think they filmed it in an area called Cronulla in Sydney, or at least the people are from Sydney. And Cronulla is an interesting place because a couple of years ago, Australians got real pissed about Muslim people at the beach being rude and disgusting towards women in bikinis. And so a bunch of dudes went on a rampage and were just beating the shit out of the Lebanese. So,
just another day.
Just another day in Australia. Yep. I think being surrounded by snakes and spiders, you go a bit mad.
That's a good way to be. Okay, let's pick this up. Syndicate, let's pop. Okay, Darth Eraser for $10. I watched the Raygun movie. Overall, it was good. I give it 8 out of 10. It showed the good and the bad. No whitewashing. The audiences score a high, critics low because it rightfully slams communism. Yeah.
Was that the Dennis Quaid movie?
Yeah, Dennis Quaid, the one that was banned on Facebook, and then they said, "Oh, we just made a mistake." Tender Warrior 68 gifted 10 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships. Go thank Tender Warrior, my friend. You're always here. You're always supportive. I love it. Thank you. Olaf for €6, the participation generation, not raised to deal with failure and success, not used to hearing no. Everything is possible, no restrictions or challenges.
I've been saying that for years, man.
That's goes back to
we messed up and we raised a generation that got participation trophies, and now we're in the mess we're in now.
Yep. Also, there's a fundamental lack of respect, I think, that has permeated our culture. For instance, when I was a kid, the idea that you would ever talk back to a teacher at school, you would never do that. Like, you would never disrespect a teacher and or an adult or anything like that. And that was just something. It wasn't necessarily, my parents were not strict, but they sort of instilled those ideas. Like, whenever you meet somebody, you look them in the eye when you shake their hand, and Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. Like, I still can't call my friends my friends' parents their first name. I've known these people my whole lives, but it's Mr. So-and-so, and I'm like, no, come on, Rob. I'm just Bruce, or I'm just, Linda. Right. And I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, respect. And that is something I think throughout our culture, we have lost something in that. And because I always figured teachers, they know more than me, and I would like to have the knowledge that they have. And I think respect doesn't just mean with other people, but in terms of respecting the fact that getting a general education is a good thing to do.
It used
Respecting the fact, now we don't even teach general education.
No, I know. That's why.
Well, and I think you're hitting a great point there.
Traditional values generally.
Yeah. And I think the problem is, Robert, we've had a whole generation raised by parents who have taught them how to be like this. That's part of the problem.
Or not taught them enough.
And well, yeah, they haven't taken any responsibility. They've taught them how to school the system. They've taught them how to be criminals. I'm not talking everybody. There's a group, though, of people that have been raised this way. And I've seen these kids, right, where their parents do these things. They, like we were talking about, how basically, it is so easy for somebody who has like 6 kids to get all sorts of benefits, right? But a veteran has to go through all sorts of hoops to get $20 in food stamps a month. Like, what kind of fucking country is this? Pardon my French, but I can't believe that shit. And those parents are teaching those kids that all you got to do is spit out a bunch of kids and the government will pay for it. Mm-hmm. Right? And they're teaching them all this crap all the time. They're not teaching them any respect, Robert. You're 100% right. Because I've seen the same kind of crap when I used to work, out in video stores and in restaurants and stuff like that. The disrespect the kids have with parents, with other authority figures, with adults in general, it's basically the fuck you generation is what I call it. They're the kids that can turn to their parents and go, fuck you, dad. And the dad can't do shit.
Yeah, I agree. We only have Chris here for a little while longer. Let me just finish these super chats so we can get back, because it's late where he's at, obviously, in Bali. Darth Maul's lower half for €2. RMB, you mentioned Infantilize. Look at Sheldon. Next, we have Grifty for $5. Joe brought me. Blame him. Thank you for coming here. Thank you, Joe, for bringing Grifty. I appreciate it. 300-yard wink for $2.79 Canadian dollars. Have any of you joined Joe's fellowship? He leads. Yeah, I heard it was a cult, but it's a good one.
It's not at all.
I know it's a cult, not cult.
It's not at all a cult type of cult.
Then we got GJJ for $5. Sydney and Mr. R on the cam mic. Thank you. There you go.
That was we were both had the camera mic on. We both fixed it. Yeah.
Well, there we are. I wanted to say, Sydney, I started, you were talking about Australia and the little things, the socialized medicine. How is it there with, because I keep seeing stories on and off where in Australia, they say free speech is starting to come under attack more, because we're seeing that all over the world.
Yeah. No, sorry, I interrupted you because I'm rude. No, we never really had free speech from the US vantage point. So I think Americans conceptualize free speech as, You can do and say whatever you want, whenever you want, out in public, online, whatever. That's never been the case back home. It's not as though they're going to drag you into prison for saying things that the government doesn't like. And we have implied free speech, thankfully, in our constitution, implied being the operative word, but it's not explicit. And so there's been, over the last number of years, and this really started sort of super duper kicking off during COVID, people being arrested for, the posts that they made on Facebook for incitement and all this type of thing. So we're very much in lockstep with what Britain does. So when Britain passes insane legislation, Australia is always maybe a couple years behind passing the exact same type of psycho legislation. So I really anticipate Australia following in the footsteps of whatever Britain's doing right now, which is what they're trying to look. They're trying to get people for saying like, "Hey, I don't like having." Yeah, like I don't like having immigrants in the country. Australia will follow suit. So freedom of speech is just a really odd issue back home because people think that we have it, but we really don't. Not in any meaningful capacity.
It's odd. I believe I saw yesterday in the news that a gentleman was arrested in London for posting the Union Jack. Someone said it was offensive. I was like, you get arrested for posting a picture of your flag? I mean,
do you guys know who Isaac Butterfield is? He's a comedian from back home.
No, I don't.
So Isaac is a friend of mine. He's a comedian. He's a deeply offensive boy. He loves to make like quirky, offensive jokes. I mean, that's part of his thing. He likes to say what will make people laugh and also shock them and whatnot. He made a joke basically about Aboriginals, and there's a lot of, how like a lot of groups here, there's like haha, like stereotypical jokes. We have the exact same thing back home. So he made a series of these jokes. I thought they were tame as all shit, but some woman found it offensive who didn't even see the show. She wasn't even there. She just found it offensive after the fact and basically got him dragged through the Human Rights Tribunal.
Wow.
Because she didn't like what he had to say on stage. So that's kind of where Australia's at.
And
I interrupted you again. I'm sorry.
I mean, they try to do the same thing here. The problem is that they can't. They've gone after Dave Chappelle so many times.
Yeah, but they can't touch him. They can't touch him. They're canceling people here. The difference here is they're using corporations to do the government's dirty work. That's the difference. But what was the reaction when that happened in Australia? Like, people like they say having enough, or is it something that's always existed in a certain way?
I don't want to speak on behalf of all Australians because I don't think I can, but I definitely know that there's a huge portion of them that are like, what the hell? Like, what is this? This is so stupid. Grow a pair, stop being a bloody bitch baby. But then there's another portion that are like, but we can't do this to people. We can't be sensitive to their feelings. Aww. And so there's like these conflicting groups, and the politicians represent the latter. They represent the people that are like, feelings. It's very annoying.
Well, isn't the UK going after people for tweeting?
Yeah, they are posting, tweeting, Facebook. And that's why I found it interesting is that you had Mark Ruffalo today. He was like, Elon Musk showed his total disrespect for Brazilian sovereignty and in particular for the judiciary, setting himself up as a true supranational entity and immune to the laws of each country. We have obviously Mark Ruffalo thinks that Elon Musk has gone beyond the means of a government because of the fact that Brazil, a Supreme Court justice in their Supreme Federal Court, Morais, banned or censored YouTube because he wanted them to provide a legal representative. Musk refused to do that because a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court justice had basically said that he was going to arrest members of Musk's team in Brazil.
George, they banned X.
Yes, they banned X.
You'd said YouTube.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I meant X. Oh, I said YouTube. Jesus. Maybe they're going to ban YouTube. No, they banned X. And now you have Ruffalo coming out. I mean, these people in Hollywood always show their true colors. But what happened today was, do y'all remember Robert Reich, the Secretary of Labor under Clinton? Here's his nice little take on Elon Musk. He basically thinks the way to deal with Elon Musk, one of the ways, is to jail him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's actually asking for many people around the world to look into arresting Elon Musk, which is completely insane.
We've gotten to 1984, man. This is crazy shit.
Yep. Here are the 4 things he says we should do. He says, or people and countries and governments. Boycott Tesla. Consumers shouldn't be making him even richer and able to do even more harm. A Tesla boycott may have already begun. A recent poll, blah, blah, blah. Second, advertisers, but he had Garm go after him, and then Musk sued him.
and then must drop the nuclear bomb on Garm. Basically, Garm is gone because this is they did exactly what Robert Reich here is suggesting. This guy is such a clown. First of all, when he talks about Section 5 of the FTC Act, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about here. Everything he's saying, we're going to use Section 5 of the FTC Act to pretend the First Amendment doesn't exist. Good. Right. Go for it. That's going to work really well, Robert Reich. This is a guy who's so utterly clueless and trying to weigh in about, the legal way to go after him when he clearly has about as much understanding of the law as any other 10th grader. So,
but I think, okay, I hear what you're saying, man. But you have to remember, at this point, everyone's playing dirty. Like at this point, the laws almost don't even matter, right? Like they could find it. If they can't find a law, they'll make up a law. I said this on my live show last night after a few glasses of wine. That X is really, whether you like Elon Musk or not, whether you think the guy is Satan or think he's the great liberator, he's our last line of defense because all the other social channels have given up and they've given in. He's the last one who hasn't. He hasn't. So if they get him, it's done. We will only get what they want us to hear.
And Sydney made the point, when she was talking about what free speech is in Australia. I mean, it just made me think we think that the West embraces free speech. There's no free speech in the world outside of our country. There really isn't. What we think of as being free speech doesn't exist in Canada, doesn't exist in Australia or in the EU. We've seen this especially since lockdowns and the way they crack down, and we start seeing them trying to rip it away over here as well. And frankly, as Verbal Riot is pointing out, that with social media starting to clamp down, we saw how our speech with respect to any sort of questioning of medications that I still need to be careful about wording over here, just so that George doesn't get nuked, that we saw how they worked on that. But with respect to the government intervening, certainly directly intervening, this is the only place on the planet that we actually have free speech. And that's why we need to vociferously fight to make sure that doesn't get eroded.
Right. And I think maybe, Joe, you can expand on this a little bit more. I mean, even though we have, the freedom of speech here in America, doesn't mean we have the freedom or right to say anything we want. Like we can't say salacious or certain things that could get us into legal issue, right? So like there already is regulations there to kind of stop us from doing some stupid things, but the other individual also has to take us to court.
Well, I want to correct what the most common mistaken belief people have is that you can't scream fire in a movie theater. You can. You actually can. That's not a crime. That people think that, if there's free speech, but you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's exactly not true. You literally can scream that. Now, if you defame someone, there can be civil penalties for it. Free speech is designed to say the government cannot take any steps to restrict your ability to speak. Now, if you're engaging in a crime through that speech, like you're engaging in conspiracy to commit murder or some other type of crime, so that's where your speech, together with an action by at least one of the parties, would then be part of a criminal act. But that's because the speech that you're engaging in is in itself criminal, as opposed to most things that people think that is illegal. That's really a civil damage that you can face repercussions. If you defame someone, you lie about someone, and you basically say something terrible that's not true, and it harms and it's derogatory. So in that case, you can face civil repercussions. But the government has no ability to stop you from engaging in that, and they don't have that anywhere else in the world, really.
I feel like George said something really brilliant a little while ago. He said about cancel culture. He said, what they do here in America, because the government can't really hurt you for saying the things that you think or anything provocative. They have the corporations do their dirty work for them. That was such an absolutely brilliant observation. They totally do that. And here's why I think what's going on with these attacks on Elon Musk and this absolute insanity is actually kind of a good thing. Like I think you guys know Elon Musk retweeted one of my videos like a couple of weeks ago, and it went like super viral and everything.
It was an Austin video. The Kamala,
thanks, man.
You're talking about Kamala talking to Tim Walz.
I did a few.
I was like, I didn't know Mr. Reagan had this level of talent. I sat there and I shared it with my audience. I was like, this is just awesome. So
Thanks, but the thing is, like, Gavin Newsom came out after that and was like, "We're gonna make parody. You know, we're gonna make these videos illegal. Any AI, we're gonna make illegal." Just like, screw you, man. Like, he obviously can't do that because of the First Amendment. But what I think is so great is that these lefties are all flipping out because why? Because you make a video that's comedic, that tells the truth, right? That's what I was trying to do with these videos. I was trying to tell the truth in a comedic way, something that Kamala would never do herself. She would never tell the truth herself. So I'm making her do it through AI, right? You know, and it's kind of funny. You're trying to express the truth, and the left freaks out. And I think this is why they hate Elon Musk so much, because if you imagine a world without Elon Musk right now, we would have no truth on any social media anywhere. They would just block it all because Elon Musk exists. That's why they're all pissed off. So I actually think all this outcry and stuff, this is a good sign, right? Because it's just an indication that Elon Musk is actually holding the line. He's actually keeping speech free in America, which otherwise wouldn't be, not because of government necessarily, but this sort of de facto censorship by the corporations.
And that's what I've been saying. If they take him down, we're screwed.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Well,
and I think it's great that it's an African American who's saving America right there. I mean, if Kamala is black because, you know, her father is Haitian or is Jamaican or whatever, so he's an African American by the same.
You guys, the richest man in the world is an African American. I never
Except it doesn't count much. My cousin went in once. He's from Cape Town. He went once to get a loan, and he filled out all the paperwork. And he put down there black, and the guy's looking at him, he's like, "You're not black." He's like, "Yeah, I'm from South Africa. I'm African American." And the banker threw him out. He's like, "That doesn't count as African American." He's like, "I am literally African American." He's like holding his face like, "You're white." He's like, "What the hell does that have to do with anything?" But since
and honestly, for the record, I have always hated that term. Always hated it. It's like, dude, look, I'm black. Let's keep it simple here.
I think it was invented by Jesse Jackson. I think it was in the 90s. Jesse Jackson came out and he said, "We're going to call black people African American," and everybody fell in line. And I remember at one point, this is like in early 2000s when people were still afraid to say black. And I was like, "Yeah, this black guy, blah, 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 blah." And then this guy, Muhammad from France, black guy from France, was sitting behind me and he turns to me. I never talked to this guy before. And he goes, "Hey, you must have black friends." And I go, "Yeah, I got some black friends. Why? Why would you say that?" And he goes, "Because you say the word black, and every other white person I meet says African American." He says, but he goes, "But you know who does not say African American? Black people."
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I don't know any black folks who have ever used that term.
I think I've seen. Al Sharpton.
Well,
yeah, well, of course. Yeah, my point, I hate hyphens. I don't like Greek American, Italian. I like American or Australian or French. I like, it just says what you are. But talking about Kamala for a second, did y'all, just before we start to wrap up, did y'all see the hoo-ha that happened over her campaign was attacking Trump for the Arlington? Y'all saw that was going on?
Yes, indeed. They're very, very original in their things that they can cross.
She's desperate.
It's a really bizarre thing to criticize him for. How dare you show respect to the fallen soldiers, you know?
Well, their whole thing was that you're not supposed to use the cemetery and the fallen soldiers for political purposes. And then a lot of people were pointing out the fact that Biden was doing press ops and whatnot at the exact same cemetery, not too many months ago or whenever it was. I'm actually not certain, but people were calling them out for that, being like, "Okay, hypocrites." But he was invited. I mean, he was invited by the families, and they were the ones who were like, "Yeah, having a photo taken is fine." Are you guys at the point? I don't know if this is just me, and I'm curious to know if you guys are here too. I'm just so sick of all of this shit. I just want everyone to stop. I just need a week of just the media being quiet, politicians being quiet, Kamala shutting up. I mean, I guess she has, because she never does any interviews. Just everyone just shush. That's what I just want.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I mean, we're wearing the end game right now. So,
it's so bad.
You know what I do, Sydney, is I just tune out for a couple of days. Sometimes I just tune out for a couple of days.
Yeah.
But then when you come back, do you feel like it's that much more in your face and you're like, no?
You know what I did? I basically had to mute like Mark Hamill. I muted George Takei. I muted like a few of those guys like that who are just constantly talking
Oh,
about
the white guys for Harris.
Basically, yeah.
Guys, I wanted to bring back go back to Elon Musk for a minute and
Yeah.
and say something. So we have a graphic example happening right now where American astronauts are trapped in the International Space Station because Boeing, a company that through one of the great American companies, through mismanagement and all kinds of, Boeing is falling apart at the seams, and their Starliner
So are their
spaceship-
planes.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Their Starliner spaceships, the planes. I mean, it's really not funny, and it's really, to me, it's a indication of where we are, where America is. Whereas Elon Musk and SpaceX, yeah, okay, he didn't invent SpaceX, but he has literally revolutionized near-Earth space travel, and one company bringing back rockets that can land on barges in the ocean. This is something that was so far beyond. Our American space program has been so hamstrung by politics and money, whereas Elon Musk has completely revolutionized space travel. And as people are pointing out, space travel is going to be our new arms race. You know, orbital platforms, all kinds of things. And Elon Musk is at the forefront of this. And an American company like Boeing can't even put astronauts in orbit. They can't come back on Boeing spacecraft because it's so damaged. And this is another problem that Elon Musk is facing, that he can do things for half the price and twice as good. And this is not what American business wants to see. And the same thing is true. He's revolutionizing the whole self-driving car. That's why they're trying to go, every time something happens to a Tesla, it makes the news. And he's out there revolutionizing industries. And there's a lot of old school American industries that don't want to see this happen.
Well,
and this is
not, because he's not taking tons of government money and then giving them kickbacks. You know, there's that whole old system. I think that a lot of people were getting into politics for many, many years on both sides. More recently, it's become almost exclusively Democrat because of the Tea Party and then Trump, and we kind of got rid of most of the Republican rhinos. But on the left, especially right now, there's just this tradition of, oh, you want to get rich in politics? Okay, come on in. And what you're going to do is you're going to shuttle, American tax dollars to these kinds of industries, and they're going to give you some kickbacks. It'll be like in an envelope. Nobody will ever know, that kind of thing. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't play that game. I think he's an honest broker, and I think that ruins the whole swampy, corrupt system they've got going.
Well, he has a vision. He has a vision, and he wants to see it. He believes. Look, he's a guy who has multiple takes. It's like on one side he believes in climate change, but on the other side he's like, we need more people on the planet. More people need to have children. So he looks at everything individually. But when Robert's talking about Boeing, that's why I brought it up earlier. It's look at half of their problems when they started embracing DEI. DEI, the whole woke mind virus. I mean, you cannot have that. You cannot replace merit. You cannot replace real talent, work ethic with some kind of like shallow feel good. I mean, I've always looked at woke as a system of beliefs that makes losers feel like winners. So a few people can control everybody.
And that's why, like, R&B, when private companies are not happy about other private companies doing something better and cheaper, that's a good thing. That's capitalism.
It is
being healthy.
That's how capitalism is supposed to work.
That's capitalism fixing the world and making the world a better place to live. Because then they're going to have to step up their game, and they're going to have to improve themselves. As it happens, what Elon claims is that most of his patents he makes publicly available. It's not like he even says you can't use my work. Let them start doing it better, and perhaps shaving off the crap like DEI and trying to find ways to force things instead of organically having their company grow in a way that's healthy, and say, no, we're going to just promote this, and at the same time we're going to try and provide the best product at the most efficient price. That never works. You need to be dedicated towards doing things in the way that actually advances based on merit, and that's why when you bring in initiatives, it's invariably going to make your company suffer. And if you're in an actual market, not propped up by the government to sort of have some sort of monopoly, but if you're an actual competitive market, you're doomed, because if they're not wasting their efforts in that direction, you're working at a significant competitive disadvantage.
Well, and that's what makes him a target, though.
Yeah.
That's what makes him a target.
It is. And it's the same way. That's how we end up getting something like this. I'm going to just touch on this last thing. We'll read some super chats and then wrap up because I know a lot of you have to get out of here in a few minutes. So I don't know how many people saw this. Well, I know Sydney did because she was talking about it in her last video. So I just had to share this with everybody who hasn't seen it. It's all a big circle. It starts from the government, goes to the corporations, Hollywood, school, and round we go. And we end up with Amanda Stenberg, who decided to have another little cry because the Acolyte was canceled.
Thought I would get on here and just speak candidly. I hate doing this, but I'm gonna do it. I don't use social media very much anymore, and I'm so happy about that. But there are many folks out there that I want to acknowledge and I want to show appreciation and love and support for. So that's why I'm hopping on here to talk about this, which is that our show.
Get to the point.
She rambles for about 3 minutes.
I'll go past the ramble.
Oh, you're going to be saying that for a while.
My value system by being vocal, even within the context of working for Disney and working within the large, massive IP that is Star Wars.
Spit it out.
On that topic, I just have to say it has been an incredible honor and dream.
Basically, she says evil white men hate her, and they have destroyed the toxic fans. Have destroyed.
So I put out a video actually this morning. It just came out. I talked about this, and here's the thing: she is an idiot for sure. She's a moron. No, wait, hear me out. She's a moron, and there's no getting around it. You know, she's one of these people. She's very entitled. She grew up rich, even though she wants to pretend to be oppressed and pretend to be like she grew up poor or something.
Like she worked at McDonald's with.
She's a trust fund baby who got a leg up at a young age to be an actor in Hollywood, and she's like Rachel Ziegler in that way where, these are entitled morons. I get that. She said some dumb things. She put out a diss track. There is a but though. Okay. The but is there are people behind the scenes that are worse. The people who I'm not saying they put the words in her mouth, but you have these executives, right? These DI executives who use these young actors and actresses as mouthpieces, right? And so when they go out there and flop, these executives can hide behind that and be fine, be safe. Meanwhile, these actors probably just killed their career. Right. But it doesn't matter though, because they have a million just like them in the back waiting to go. So
they're not worried, Dante, when they look at her and she destroys her career, and then an upcoming Rachel Ziegler, they're not going to go, hey, maybe I'm not going to do the same thing she did.
Well, we're talking about Disney though. See, if it was any other studio, I'd say, okay, maybe they might learn their lessons. Disney, specifically Lucasfilm, will never learn that lesson. Disney has money to burn. And
he's suggesting that the actors may not be wanting to join up with their big, but I don't understand. I get what you're saying with that. But what actresses are like in Hollywood, they'll do anything.
Disney is his own beast, man. I'm telling you, they don't care about the money; they care about the message. So they will throw out 100 Rachel Zieglers, 100 Amanda Stenbergs, because they got $1 million in the back waiting to go. I'm saying Disney is the problem, specifically Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy knows where all the bodies are buried. I think it's actually Iger will never fire her. They will never get rid of her.
Okay.
I think it's worse than what you're saying, because I don't look. This girl could have been a nice girl. She could have been a reasonable person. But the only information that she has about this is what they're telling her. She doesn't actually. Yeah. I don't think she's not doing the research herself, right? So they're telling her there's these toxic fans. They're telling her all this stuff. I think she really believes it, right? They're brainwashing her.
They told them this before the show even premiered. They did press junkets where they talked about the racist, toxic fans before the show even premiered.
And they're talking about Doomcock. They're talking about Gary from
Nerdrotic.
Yeah, that's exactly
Drinker, critical drinker.
They're talking about our friends. Really,
yeah.
I mean, they're talking about our friends, and they're saying that these guys are racist and stuff. Like, I know these guys. They're not racist.
They're not. Okay? Trust me on that.
They're decent.
Gary is one of the most generous men I've ever met.
I probably am.
He really is.
True. Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
I think one of the most confusing things, though, about this is that George Lucas is a massive shareholder in Disney.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't think, I mean, I don't know what you guys think of him, but just from the research that I've done into him, I get the impression that he doesn't support any of this. And I know that I get the impression that he leans to the left just because of how vocal he's been about some of his positions, you know, being like, you know, he's not that I think being anti-authoritarian is necessarily like a super left-wing viewpoint. I think you can be on the right and feel that way too. But he definitely has some more left-leaning views and whatnot. And so I just can't imagine him being this like normal human being that wants to see films that have good stories, because that's one of his primary prevailing attitudes is I want to see good stories. I don't want all the flashy bullshit. I don't think that makes a good story. I just don't understand like how he
Have
could
you seen the
potentially sit back.
prequels?
Yes. Well, I like them.
Well, I'll tell you something else about George. George likes money.
No, but I don't. I think it's
so-
more than that. I think he actually. I think he actually.
But he's
cares.
also
Like,
checked out.
Well,
checked
here's
out.
the thing.
Well,
He
he-
never was
He
really
is checked.
checked in, and I've had to kind of bring some people to reality when it comes to George Lucas. Star Wars was never the thing that he was planning on making his life. Star Wars was more or less made on a bet, or because he was being pressured by Francis Ford Coppola at the time. It just became his life. In fact, the weird thing with the prequels is the prequels are more like him working his stuff out with him losing his wife over the original Star Wars trilogy more than anything. Than it feels like an extension of Star Wars itself. But yeah, no, he was more into like that kind of stuff. You're not wrong there. But at the end of the day, he wanted to make movies like THX 1138. But that movie bankrupted Zoetrope Studios and cost them a 3-picture deal with Warner Brothers. And he was being just basically yelled at by his wife and Francis Ford Coppola. And Francis is like, why can't you just make a regular movie that people like a kid's movie or comedy? And he's like, fine, I'll go do that. And he made American Graffiti and Star Wars, which were a comedy and a kid's movie, basically. And that's why Star Wars wasn't really meant to be anything more than like this serial that you dropped in at the end of, in the middle of, and saw the end of, right? It wasn't meant to have an episode 1, 2, and 3. It wasn't meant to have an episode 5, 6, and so on and so forth. That's
I have always
revisionist
had a
history when he
theory.
says that crap, right? He's full of it.
Yeah.
But
he
yeah,
was
so
saying that
anyway,
stuff back in the 70s, though, like if you watch
to a
interviews
point,
of his-
he said he didn't get to tell the whole story he wanted to, but then
Yeah.
he built Lucasfilm to make Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. But the parts that you don't hear about is the part where he basically built a cage for his wife so she could edit from home and never leave him. And he ended
Well, I
up
didn't
losing
know
her
that.
because of that. Yeah,
That
see,
is-
that's the other side of the story. So
Well,
yeah,
Tom,
it's
let me throw this at you real quick. I've always believed by watching the original Star Wars, the original film, that George Lucas intended for it to be a little bit sort of tacky, right? Like those old serials back in the day. And the only reason that it ended up being the epic production that it was is because everybody on that set was too damn good. The costume designers were too good. The set designers were too good. The model makers were too good. Everybody was so high level that they turned his sort of tacky, jokey.
You think it's supposed to be the
campy thing-
producers? It's supposed to be like the producers, like you're supposed to bomb, and it ended up like just being
Exactly. It's exactly like the producers. That's what I think
I
Star
think
Wars
that's
was.
partially right, but I think the other half is George has major OCD. Like he is a perfectionist, right? So when he came back from shooting the film, and I'm sure Robert and others will confirm this with me, he saw the work that ILM had done and he said, this is shit. You guys are sitting around doing nothing but getting stoned. What the hell is this? And he threw out a whole year's worth of work and started from scratch because what they had was garbage. And there's a whole nother version of Star Wars out there with all these alternate like cuts of the special effects and stuff in it that if you've seen some of it, you'll know what I'm saying. Like it looks horrible. Yeah,
I think they threw it all together and called it a very Christmassy Star Wars or something like that.
They did use a lot of that in the Christmas special. Yeah.
So,
no.
to be fair, I mean, they were building like the
Yeah, they were
extra
starting
flex
from scratch,
They
yeah.
were building technology that didn't exist, motion control cameras and things like that. So they were pioneering efforts. But I do think that there's something. Look, Star Wars is an example, if you want to look at it as an American microcosm, where you have one man who had a vision, but he hired the best people he could. I mean, his wife was an Academy Award-winning editor. They brought all these people to bear that made the movie greater than the sum of its parts. And
Exactly.
there's a reason why he didn't want to direct Empire Strikes Back. And if you read Rinsler's making of books on Star Wars. It's really George Lucas did not like Empire at all.
Right.
And
which is insane to me.
It almost bankrupted his company, and they couldn't make payroll. And it's an interesting tale. But I wanted to kind of tie it back in just quickly before we move on. The thing about DEI that I find so pernicious is that there's a supposition that somehow people are lesser, so they need a helping hand. Like these are people that for whatever reason aren't as smart, aren't as fortunate.
It's patronizing.
Which is it is incredibly patronizing. And also America was on a pretty good path about 25 years ago in terms of race relations, in terms of LGBTQ rights. Everything was moving forward. It was evolving the way it should, in that people should be recognized for who and what they are, for their own merits. Like what Martin Luther King's individually. We want the sovereignty of the individual. It's what Martin Luther King said, judge me by my character. And this was happening. And the same thing, every kid gets a trophy. Now it's Americans, all of these initiatives are basically there to allow the individual to not be responsible for themselves.
I'm going to white pill you. I'm going to white pill you when you're done.
We have to work. We have to work hard, man. People have to.
And then I'll black pill you after the white pill.
Give it to me.
No, I'll white pill you. That's where we are at now. I mean, thank God, I have a nightly following. I stream for 2 hours a night, 6 nights a week. And I'll tell you that I have a really healthy following of people who are very right-leaning. And the right side of the aisle is the one that was always, deemed to be the ones who had issues with this group or that group. And I'll tell you right now, my audience, with very rare exception, doesn't care whether the person is white, black, yellow, Muslim, Jewish, gay, whatever.
That's on the conservative side. That's on the conservative.
That's what I'm saying is we don't care. We don't care at all. All we care is what are your values? Are you living a healthy life? Are you being productive? We care about are you a good person? It's really that simple. Are you a good person or are you not a good person? And the left is I think frustrated that there isn't this hatred anymore. So they have to pretend that it's out there and that they have this boogeyman that they need to defeat. And the lightning rod of that boogeyman is Trump.
Now.
I agree.
It's built now. It's been building up now. What happened was, and that was intentional. Look, we heard when Barack
there's
Obama
a hatred against white men now.
Okay, fine. That's
created that.
Yeah, white people need their own civil rights movement now. Damn it.
Now we do. Yeah.
But what happened
Christians
was,
and whoever else. Yeah.
I mean, if you look
white Christian men,
if you look at historically, we all supposedly when we were electing Barack, that was the declaration that America is no longer racist, and then racial tensions like exploded under his administration
because there was this lie that everybody who criticized Barack Obama was criticizing him because he was
rooted in
black.
race. Exactly. And I'll tell you something. If he wanted to put that to rest, he easily could have. When he saw the BLM riots springing up in Ferguson, if he flew in there on Air Force One, dropped in there and said, "Don't worry, I got this. I'm going to fix this." Those racial tensions die in a second because he was looked at as a messianic figure on the left. If he wanted to put them to rest, he could have, but he wanted those tensions because it gives the Democratic Party that boogeyman.
The left keeps power if they can convince groups, whatever those groups might be.
They're oppressed.
We all know what they are exactly. That the straight white man hates you, and we will protect you from the straight white man, and we will put money into this thing.
But you guys have to understand that has been the Democrats' playbook since the fucking 60s. Okay, do you understand how often
they can't let that go?
The Democrat Party has pandered to the black community for decades, and the way they've been able to do that, and I'll give the Democrats their credit on this, they were able to convince the black community that no matter how bad these Democrats are, at least they're not the racist party, right? Like they're not the Republicans. No, really. And that's how they've kept power with the black community for so long, by convincing the black community that the Republicans are all racist.
It's simple. The Democrats,
it's a playbook.
The Democrats set their agenda by their ideology, and their ideology is what they push policies forward. Republicans, or the GOP, I'll call it, they chase money. They chase donor money, and then the donors tell them what to set, which is the corporations. And the corporations, unfortunately, today or have sided most of their CEOs with lefties and with this kind of like leftover fascism. That's why you're starting to see a split. It's become a uniparty. Anyway.
Also, really quick though, I feel like I need to say this, man, and because I am a former liberal, I guess is the word. Guys, being a liberal meant something very different back in the day.
It did.
Right? I consider myself an old school liberal. Like being a liberal in the 80s and 90s is a lot different than being a leftist, right? So when the party started going crazy left, that's when I left. But there was a time when liberals stood, basically the stuff conservatives stand for now, liberals stood for then, right? We were all about free speech. We were all about no censorship. We were all about legalizing weed and everything else, right? And we were all about freedom. We were all about freedom. And then that switched.
It switched.
And then the conservative party became the party of that.
To math is racist, and we need to give people a job just because of their color, which is the most derogatory thing in the world, and only harms the very people that they're advocating on behalf of.
Oh, absolutely.
Can I real quick tell you the worst thing about the DEI crap is when you have affirmative action and you bring in people because of their race, you're going to bring and you set the standards lower for them. If everybody knows that that's happening, then people go, oh, if you're black and you're a doctor, I'm going to presume that you are inferior to all the other doctors.
Yes.
And the problem with that is there are some fucking amazing black doctors. And you know what everybody's going to think about that black doctor?
He sucks.
That they benefited. Yeah, that they suck. That's going to be what everybody thinks. And then the people you're trying to help are necessarily screwed by your trying to help them. Everything about affirmative action is a disaster. And that's why they now say that we cannot judge people by their merit. We have to, if you're crap at something, then we're going to just promote you because now they've effed it all up. They've effed up the whole system now because people know that affirmative action, if it was a secret, maybe you get away with it. But everybody knows that it exists, so
and that's why
over all the good ones.
Clarence Thomas lived that experience when he came out of law school, and he was, he went to top law schools, and he went to Harvard. He goes to one of the top law schools in the country, and everyone he couldn't get a job because everyone just assumed that, oh, okay, he's an affirmative action that he benefited from it, and didn't realize that this guy was. Nobody knew that he was like this crazy mad genius who happens.
He's amazing. He's everybody's favorite.
He's arguably he is my favorite all time Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas, and but people, he couldn't even get a job, and that's why he was the first to sign off on taking it out of schools and having. And knocking it out of those liberal colleges because he's like, you're harming the very demographic.
He understands
to help.
It, right?
He's lived it. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a quick question before we wrap up around the panel. What do y'all think chances are, starting with Sydney, who's going to win the election? Just curious. I know you don't want to deal with the politics.
No.
I'm just.
No. I love politics. I live in politics, but I'm just like I'm burned out. Okay. Okay, you want to hear like my very female approach to this?
Yep.
I saw this astrology reading that said that Trump would win, and I want to believe it because she's been right in the past. My soul is saying that Kamala's going to win, and it makes me want to die because I really don't want another. I can't live through another 4 years of this. I really can't do it, and I think this will destroy the country. However, I do think that people are just this stupid. But I'm desperate for Trump to win. I really want him to win, but.
Okay, Dante, we got one astrologist down and one gut feeling.
Okay, so I'm not going to use astrology.
Astrologist thing. Yeah.
I'm not going to use astrology, but I am going to say that unfortunately, call me a black pill if you want. I just don't have a lot of faith in the intelligence of our country. Let's just put it that way. And so I think Kamala's going to win. But here's the thing.
Sorry,
here's the thing.
You're killing me.
No, here's the thing. I think the rig is in, though. I think the rig is in. I think it's already. I think it's too
seen the polls,
I think it's too close right now to where the rig couldn't be in. It's definitely going to be a part of this.
Because I'll just say one thing. I know don't mean to interrupt you, but she is the first Democratic presidential nominee who the week after her convention had a 1.2 bounce, and then it dropped.
Yeah,
because of the Kennedy. That Hillary had 6. I mean, Hillary at this point in 2016 was up in most states by 4.5 to 5 points. New York 8.
I just don't have the faith in the American public to do the right thing.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
That's my problem. I want Trump to win. Right. I don't think he will.
All right, so we got an astrologist, a gut feeling. You think Kamala and Rob?
No, the astrologist said that Trump will win. It's a good
we got
thing.
the
She had a bunch of good predictions, and she was.
So good for Robert in the heart of Crazyville from California. The last bastion of sanity. Who do you think? By what you see around you.
Look, obviously, there's a lot of excitement in the Democratic Party for Kamala, and my problem is this: I don't know what I'm getting. You know, what is Kamala about? What are we? Where's the policies? What would we get? I think that
4 more years of Biden.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it hasn't been great, you know, living in California, having a house, and it's been a real struggle. I would like to see things change. My only problem is on the other side. I'm not convinced Trump would even survive another 4-year presidency, not because of anything nefarious. Just because as he's getting up there, I don't think Trump wanted to be president in the first place. I think it was something he did as a marketing move, and I think the next 4 years, especially what's happening around the world today, we're not paying enough attention, but we're going to be in a world of hurt in the next 4 years, and I am worried with both sides. But I think it's going to be another squeaker of an election. And I don't want to ride the fence.
No, I got you. But you're saying what you think. You don't know. You're thinking it's a squeaker.
I think it's going to be a squeaker. Gotcha. And again, what's going to happen is it's all going to be a distraction from the actual. We have some really serious things happening on a global scale that are going to come home to roost. And we need a serious, very, very intelligent group of people running this country in the next 4 years, and if we don't get them, we're going to find ourselves in a world of hurt.
Yep. Because today, I believe it is today going on now, the AfD party in Germany is set to win. By what I read before we got on the show, it's like the first right party or conservative party.
The far right party that's been like sanctioned and stuff in Germany.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, Tom.
You're saying they're going to win the election?
That was Robbie had posted it, and so did I think it was Zero Hedge and Breitbart that they're yeah. Can you hear me?
The internet's getting her. She's back, I think.
Okay.
Oh, did I briefly disappear? Yes, the far right party won. They're not actually far right.
Oh, it already won. Oh, cool.
Yes, they won. They won. It says they win their first state election.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go, Tom. Okay, it's you.
Well, I hate to say these words because I generally don't, but I have to disagree a little bit with Robert on this one. Because I did agree to a point. I used to think Trump was just in this for some publicity stunt or, just whatever. I never thought before that he had any serious, designs on the office itself, just so much of the popularity campaign of it all. But after he got shot at and after he stood up, that changed the way I looked at him. Because then I saw a different side of him, and it just changed everything after that. And the debate also made a big difference to me because at that point I started to see that he is now surrounding himself with people that have taught him how to kind of temper down some of his worst traits, let's say. Because, I never really cared for his personality and the way he was always, would just be. But at this point, after that, I'm kind of going, this is what we need right now. And I live in the heart of one of the swing states, as they're called, Wisconsin. And actually, it's more the crotchular region, I guess. But anyway.
Okay, so Trump or Kamala, what's your pick?
Anyway, like when I drive around, I don't see hardly any Kamala signs. I would say 90 to 95% of all the signs I see are Trump signs. So if Trump does not win Wisconsin, I'm going to be right next to anybody who calls shenanigans. Gotcha. On election day. That's where I'm at right now. So I do agree with Robert that it will be a squeaker, but I also agree, that the fix is kind of already in, right? As Verbal said, like at this point, I don't see her not winning because I agree with you two guys that the American public is so stupid and they can be guilted into doing just about anything. Look at what happened to us just 2 years ago or a year, we just are finally getting out of this stuff. The whole world just went nuts. And we went and bought toilet paper because we thought everything was coming to an end, right? I mean, we are so gullible and stupid.
All right,
I think you're also discrediting that people on the right are also like so defeated right now. My thing is like, I think Kamala will probably win, but I want people to show up to vote. Like,
You
even
have to
if,
get out and
even if I
vote.
think she's, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like a lot of people on the right in like my orbit and like the political world are like, oh no, Kamala's going to win, so we should give up. No, you don't give up. You go out and you do more. Like, what? And
Well,
so it's
I
really
disagree.
disheartening.
I disagree that it'll be 4 more years of the same thing too, because I think it's going to be worse.
I think it's a bit.
Because she is
infinitely
10
worse.
times worse. Anything that, because at least with Biden, you had that
She's
bit of a
the
filter
most far
there.
right. Far left, sorry. She's the most far
Yes.
left
Well,
in her
price
values.
controls. Price controls alone tell it all. Price controls. All right, Chris, your take.
Well, look, I'm pretty convinced that Trump will win in a landslide. The question is whether or not they can cheat enough to convince the American people that it was a legitimate victory, or at least most of the American people. That's what they really need to do. I think, that's what, in fact, I talked to a lot of foreigners, what they think is going to happen. And they always say, I think Trump will win, but I think they'll cheat and Kamala will get into office. Now, here's the thing. In 2016, we weren't looking for the cheat so much. Or sorry, not 2016, 2020. In 2020, we weren't looking for the cheat as intensely as we are now. Because now, everybody on the right, every conservative, every Trump supporter is absolutely convinced that 2020 was stolen. So now they're super paranoid. We're looking at every little thing. And I think cheating is actually hard. I think it's a lot harder than people think it is to cheat to win an entire presidential election. I have a kind of a unique take. It's a little bit of a conspiracy theory. But I think that, but I think this is probably what they're going to do. I think that Trump is going to obliterate Kamala during the debate. Kamala's numbers are going to plummet. Trump's going to very obviously be on the way to win. And the only thing that they're going to have left in their bag of tricks.
Make her president.
Exactly. I think Joe Biden will step down.
Said
and
that.
I think Kamala Harris.
I said that last week.
No way.
Yeah.
No
First
way.
I
female
totally agree with that.
president.
I totally agree with that.
Because all the spotlight will be on Kamala. All the news networks will be like the first female president.
Yes.
She'll be so
There's no
celebrated
way.
for 2 weeks.
No, he's right.
No.
I
You know
totally
they've already packed up the White House. They were packing it up already.
Here's why they're going to do
Biden's
it.
been on vacation for like 2 weeks.
Hold on.
It's the smartest thing for them to do. Once Trump's ahead and going to win, it's the only way they can get the spotlight off of him and all back onto Kamala and make it a big celebration of femininity and blackness, even though she's Indian essentially. Yeah.
I said that last week. Dante and I was like, the only play I could see them doing is the same thing after Trump was shot, is they got Biden out, put her in. They would put, I hope it doesn't happen, but I think
great minds think alike, George.
There you go, Chris. I think that'll happen.
Well, exactly. And they've been trying to memory hold the shoot.
I know. Hold on one second. He blows her away at the debate. Biden resigns. They've already packed up half the White House. There are pictures online. You can see Washington Post saying, why are they packing so early? You got till January. It was out, I think, Sydney, you could look it up from 10 days ago. But then what will they do? You'll have prices come down. They'll release more of the oil reserves. And they'll go, look what she did in 60 days. Imagine 4 years, and we already have the first female president. Do you want to go against that? You want to be like the misogynist? Anyway, that's
the whole campaign thus far has been bread and circuses. It's just a big party. There's no actual substance. They've got to do something else flashy, don't they? This is the most flashy thing that they could do.
Can't think of anything else.
I just don't reckon.
Yeah. I hope they don't.
Hold on. I
thought they were going to. Here's why, right? Like I thought 100% that Biden was going to step out and she was going to step in as the nominee. I thought that in everything that the way that this played out, I was like, yep. And I was tweeting like months ago that this was going to be the case. I just knew it. And like, I don't think that was any great revelation. Like, I think a lot of people knew that was going to go down because I was like, this is the only way that they can recover from this and get people re-engaged, because people were so frustrated and angry that Biden being in cognitive decline had been hidden for so long, or hidden, like we all knew.
The debate exposed that.
And the debate exposed that, right? And so I was like, this is 100% going to happen. And then it happened. Here's the reason I don't think that they're going to pull it again is because, well, number one, I think that they would actually still need to get Biden's approval, even though his brain doesn't work.
I don't think you understand how controlled Joe Biden actually is.
No, I totally do. But I think that there's so many people still in his orbit who are not going to let that happen. That's why I reckon that won't be the case. But hey, if I'm wrong, like I'll admit it. I just am loathed because this is what they did in Australia, right? To get the first female prime minister, they had a female candidate replace the existing prime minister, and then everyone was like, "Oh my god, look, it's just so great! Like she's the first leader." Yeah, Australian politics is cooked. Like we don't vote for prime ministers in the same way.
So wait, hold on. You're giving us an example of how it actually happened and worked, and then saying, but it definitely.
But the difference the difference is that like A, no one cares about Australian politics, and B, the leader that she replaced, everyone hated, and he wasn't insulated. Like he was not insulated. I think that Biden is still pretty insulated. But hey, again. I hope you're wrong.
They're throwing him under the bus now. I think.
Okay,
I hope I'm wrong too. I
agree
really
to a point, but like I'm surprised too they didn't do it right away, but I think they will. I think that's still in the game plan. I think you guys are spot on. They were saving that in their back pocket. Plus, the other side was there was resistance from the Biden side. We knew from the start. They were trying not to like let this get out there. They also didn't want him to step down from the election. I guarantee you him staying on for now until the election was probably the compromise they came up with. But he's been on vacation for the last 2 weeks. We are basically we are a country running without a leader right now. We are at the most vulnerable we've ever been since Pearl Harbor, right? Like this is ridiculous. I mean, and here we're at this point now. I totally see what you guys are saying. 60 to 90 days before, or are we even 90 days out anymore? Even like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised the next month or two that happens.
I would say it's 2 or 3 weeks before.
Yeah, it could even happen just before. Yeah.
Okay, Joe.
My point before was I was gonna say they already trying to memory hole the whole assassination attempt. Right? We're still talking about JFK to this day. Yet here we are a month out from the assassination attempt on a former president, and nobody's talking about it.
All right, Joe, you're the last one.
Sorry.
No problem.
So first and foremost, I want to point out that 9 weeks. We're more than 9 weeks away from the election. We're roughly around 9 weeks from the election, and 9 weeks ago, Biden had not even engaged in debate, and everyone was saying how he was, the leader of our times, and he was a phenomenal leader. So much happened so fast that feels like it's ancient history. That by the time we get to election day, we will look back at September 1st and think of this as being eons ago. So whatever we're thinking the world looks like today and the landscape looks like today, it will not look anything like this on election day. I can promise you that, because the October surprise happens every election cycle, and it'll be even more shocking than what we've seen over the last 2 months, almost certainly. That being said, if you ask me, based on what we're seeing today, I think that we're going to win bigly. It's not going to be something cheatable based on the current numbers and the direction that everything has been going. And the reason I'm saying that is we're talking about whether or not Donald Trump might win. He's like within a point or two of the popular vote. When is the last time a Republican won the freaking popular vote? It's not close at all. I think Bush in his second term won the. I think it was in 2004.
Oh, I thought it was Reagan. Okay.
Uh,
I
think Bush in his when
I
he
think
was
Joe's
running
right.
against Kerry, I think he ended
The
up
shock and awe campaign. Yeah.
But look at how popular he was, because at that point the Iraqi war was very popular back then. That's the last time we saw a Republican win the popular vote, and that's how he's razor thin there. This is not even close at this juncture. He is destroying her. Now, everyone thinks that he's going to dominate her in the debate. I am not predicting domination, because the yardstick has been set so high, because he's so obliterated that withering old man, that there's no way he will be able to do it nearly as effectively as against Kamala, because she's not going to implode quite to the same degree. She'll be able to stammer around in her little talky word salad circles, and the left is gonna be like, oh wow, what a great answer, how inspiring, how uplifting, and they're gonna find a way to try and spin it that she's not butchered in this, and by comparison to how Biden held up, she will look very effective. And frankly, if
you look back at her last debate against Pence, she held her own there. I don't think he's going to obliterate her in this debate. I think he'll win the debate, but I don't think he's going to bait her. He's going to. He's.
Well,
I don't think he's
the
going
interview.
But
She
she was terrible. She
we
was.
have to have you
terrible,
all
and the
back.
left can't even admit it, though, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they can't even admit how terrible she was. But she has literally nothing new that she's introduced that has not been panned by the left itself. She's got build the wall. She sounds like a regular MAGA freak. She's building the wall. She's giving the same tax credits. Oh, he's giving 5,000. I'll give 6,000. She's embracing one policy after another that Trump has embraced. And the new things she brings in, even the left is like, "Are you crazy?
The price
price controls." That's like, does that even like the Washington Post, the Atlantic are putting out articles saying you got to be a lunatic. I mean, price gouging isn't even the problem here. And so, look, I think that if where we're at right now, Trump is in a phenomenal position not to simply win and eke it out, but to decimate her. But we need to bear in mind that there's a lot of factors that can happen over the next couple of months, which could actually change things. I think they'll struggle to get Kamala in there. I think Biden will step down. You have to drag him out of that chair there but they managed to drag him out with respect to the campaign. Maybe they can drag him out before, and I think they're going to struggle to get him to go along with that because I don't think he likes Kamala at all. And
no, he doesn't. He doesn't. But I agree with you.
Barack. So that's why I'm saying right now it looks great, but who the hell knows what's going to happen with factors going forward over the next 2 months.
All right. I agree with you. I think Trump's going to win, and he's going to win in a landslide. So let's read the super chats real quick, and then we will wrap up. All right. Jim Alaska gifted 20 Georgia Giant Slayer memberships. Jim, you always come here. You're always supportive. Thank you, my good friend. I still remember our conversations when we met in Vegas. I have my best wishes to you and your wife. Thank you. Everybody go thank Jim. He just made us bigger. Thank you. Next, we have 300-yard wink for $2 and 2 Canadian dollars and 79 cents. Joe has some of the best Jew jokes I've ever heard.
Jew. They may not realize. You may not realize it. Just so you feel less awkward. I'm a practicing Orthodox Jew.
Oh, I don't get it. I'm Jewish.
Yeah, so that's why. Like, I actually recognize that when you sometimes. Frankly, over the last year, I've seen much more genuine anti-Semitism than I've ever seen before in my life as a way because of this whole Free Palestine thing. And the best way to deal with anti-Semitism is through humor, where you're sort of like mocking them and parroting them under themselves. So
hold on, Joe, you know what I call a practicing Orthodox Jew? A real Jew.
Yeah. I invented the term Gino for these leftists from Hollywood who basically the only thing you know about them is their last name. Literally, it's in name only. It'll be like an Epstein or
it's so smart. Yeah, because they're just atheists that say, "Oh, I'm of Jewish heritage. If you criticize me, you're anti-Semitic."
Yeah. They infuriate me and get me angrier than you can possibly imagine because they basically destroy and they're mocking everything that I genuinely believe in.
I know what you mean. Cyberchud 2077 for $5. Government agencies not only pressure corporations, they often directly own them through shell companies or by placing paid agents in key positions. Thank you, Cyberchud. Great point. I still believe the government uses our corporations to cancel or silence us, but that's coming to an end. You have so many people here on the panel who are doing it. Robbie Starbuck, he got Ford, Lowe's. Now he's going after Home Depot. Their DEI policies. Love him. Walter White Walker for $5. RFK Jr. gave a fantastic interview yesterday. The fact that Democrats want to silence him is scary, and people seem to not want to know the truth. You're right. I thought that was a game changer. It also killed Kamala's momentum at the end of her convention. Thank you, Walter. And we have the Sundowners Club, member for 3 months. Rain Roberts is as responsible for their horrible shows Lucasfilm has put out the last several years as anyone, yet no one talks about her because she stays out of the public eye. Well, we will talk about her some more. Thank you for bringing it up, the Sundowners Club. Fantastic Mr. Knox for Australian $5. Did you guys hear Dustborn got USA government money on top of EU and Norway tax money to fund their game? Yes, Mr. Knox, we were talking about that earlier, but I'm glad you brought it up because we're going to talk about it again. I'm doing some research on it to do a video for it on this solo stream coming up Wednesday. And then we have John Maynard for $20. Thank you, John. It was the Great Society from LBJ that put blacks
back onto the proverbial plantation. Well, now the Democratic Party wants to go back to plantation politics because that's what they know. Thank you, John. You're like a producer of the day. Appreciate it. Next, we have Dennis Ann for $5. Mine, not the leader of not a cult type of cult, is one of the best. Love you, Joe. See you tonight on your show. Subscribe to the show. Hey, thank you, Dennis Ann. He's got a cult night cult, and we're building a nation. Not nation. Nation. Thank you. John Who for $7.42. I don't think people will vote for Kamala, but will vote against Trump. Interesting point. I just can't see anyone voting for cackling Kamala knee pads, but who knows? Thank you, John Who. GraphWeb for $2. In the name of all that is holy, cancel Disney Plus. GraphWeb, I love you. Every show, you're always saying you're on point, on message. Everybody cancel Disney Plus. Damage I do. Thank you, GraphWeb. And that's it. So we're going to start with Joe from Good Logic. Please tell everybody where you're from, and thank you so much for coming and what you're up to.
Yeah, Joe Nierman, aka Good Logic. I stream my podcast. I'm a New York attorney turned podcaster. I talk law and politics, and basically this is election season. So I'm covering everything related to this election, whether it's the bumbling buffoonery of Kamala Harris, stolen valor of Tim Walz, or his crazy, insane leftist policies. And also, I try calling it on both sides. I don't like being a homer. So, like, if I see foibles or flaws in the way that Trump is handling his campaign, even though I'm obviously more leaning towards Trump, I'm going to call it out because I want people to learn and also be entertained. And I don't want to filter that through a lens. I want to try and give them as much integrity as I can. So I urge you to check it out every night, from 10 to midnight. So there you go.
Thank you, Joe. That was awesome. Sydney, it's been wonderful. Thank you for coming on. I hope you'll come back again. It was great.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun. Sorry that. Well, thank you. I am actually very talented at the old breakdancing. I'm sorry that I was quiet for some of this. I was fighting with people on Twitter who are very mad at me over my new video about the Acolyte. And by the way, guys, as we were live, someone actually sent to me a message and they just wrote, "You right. You was right." And then they've sent me a video of apparently our friend Raygun went to an Australian event called the Logies, which is kind of the equivalent, I suppose, of like a where they give you like an Oscar type thing for the things that you do on television. I haven't watched it yet, but it looks like they're doing exactly what I said they would do, which is like emulating her. But yeah, so sorry for being quiet for a lot of this stream. Just I love bickering with people on the internet on Twitter. So, but it's really great. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I miss live streaming.
Oh, I love it. I hope you come back and show us some more moves.
It's great to stream with
you.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. Oh, we got another. We have another super chat here real quick from Fantastic Mr. Knox for $5 Australian. Oh, also, did you also hear Democrats are suing RFK to keeping his name on the ballot, but are taking Cornel West's name off the ballot? Yeah, that's
hilarious because the reason he dropped out is because they kept suing him to get his name off the ballot. So now they're suing to keep his name on the ballot.
Which I really don't understand how, if he says he wants it off. I saw North Carolina said, well, we've already printed the ballots. We can't spend the money to print them again or something. That was
so stupid.
Like I said, the fix is in, Dan.
I really don't think it'll matter. I think so many people are disgusted with the economy, with the way things are going, that he's going to win by such a margin. But that's just my thought.
Really
All right.
You're right.
I hope so. And the astrologist. So me and the astrologist and Chris and Joe. Dante, where can everybody find you? Thank you for coming, my good friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, guys, you can find me at Verbal Riot on YouTube, Rumble, and X. I'll be going live this Thursday at 6 o'clock. And yeah, that's it.
That's it. Sweet. Straight to the point. Robert Burnett, happy birthday. Your turn.
You can find me over on YouTube at The Burnett Work. And also, we are currently producing a fully immersive audio drama based on the novels of Max Allan Collins, who wrote Road to Perdition. And if you want to head over to Kickstarter, support True Noir. We're in the last 2 weeks of our campaign.
Beautiful. I cannot wait till it comes out. I'm looking forward to it. Tom from Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark. What are you working on next, my friend?
Well, I am not going to use my time to plug anything since I feel like I crushed Sydney with my George Lucas story. I'm going to tell a positive George Lucas story real quick.
Because I like George Lucas. Tell me something nice.
So, do you know who Joe Johnston is?
Yes.
You should know the name. Okay, so for those who don't know the name Joe Johnston, he worked as a production designer on the Star Wars films. Now, by the time he got done with Return of the Jedi, he went to George Lucas and he's like, I'm done. I'm fried. I can't do this anymore. Peace. I'm done with this. I'm leaving the industry. George is like, because he recognized how, a massive talent he was. He's like, look, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to send you to film school. I'll pay you. I'll keep you on Lucasfilm payroll, and I'll pay for your schooling. If and when you're done with film school, if you don't want to do anything, that's fine. You can go home. You owe me nothing. And what he did after Joe Johnston got out of film school, his first film he directed was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, wow.
Aww.
That's nice.
And of course, his next movie after that was The Rocketeer. And then, of course, one of his more recent films that we all know very fondly is the first Captain America film. So, yeah, I mean, there's George. He saw talent and he didn't want to see it go away. He saw this kid with a lot of talent, and now he's one of the greatest directors. And he's somebody I've said should have directed one of the Star Wars films. I don't know why he hasn't yet. But rumor is that him and Kathleen Kennedy don't get along. So
I don't think she gets
after they
along
worked
with
together on Jurassic Park 3. So
Or cut off his own genitalia.
Well, thank you for
I like
that.
that story. Yeah. That was heartening to hear over you being like, nope, George Lucas is right. So thank you.
I know I kind of am a bit of a, like I rain on people's sunny days sometimes. So I try to do it too
It's
often.
okay. I forgive you. You made up for it. You brought an umbrella, so it's all right. We're good now.
Thank you, Tom, for that. All right, Chris, thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure. Again, I hope you come back. Please tell everybody where they can find you and what you're doing next.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Good to chat with you, Sydney. You got to call me more often, girl. We haven't spoken.
Do you really want me to start harassing you? Because I will. I will return the forum.
Well, what's actually funny? They were like, Sydney Watts is going to be on there. I'm like, we haven't hung out in a while. I should go on.
It's probably because you moved to the other side of the planet.
That is accurate.
Probably
That is accurate. Look, I'm on the YouTubes at Mr. Raygun, and I'm also on the X at Mr. Raygun USA. And I highly recommend you subscribe to my show because I will be having some pretty epic parody videos coming out. I doubt that Elon Musk will retweet any more of them, but you can always hope and pray. But they are going to be very, very good. I got an Elizabeth Warren one coming out, and sneak peek, I have another Kamala Harris one that's going to be all about how, since she's going to destroy the economy, she wants little girls to take her career path, which is, of course, prostitution.
I like
Nice.
that.
Nice.
Wow. That was just like, bum. Beautiful.
Oh, I got
Beautiful.
that.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you so much for everybody for coming. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank our mods. Thanks, Sindek, my brother, for producing the show, and all these beautiful people. I wish you all a brilliant, blessed week. I'll be back Wednesday for my solo stream, and I'm working on my Panda Rings of Power video. And boy, do I miss the Marvels. I've never seen a show that I felt was written by an AI that binged Twilight scripts and Rachel Segler's audition tapes. But that's pretty much Rings of Power. All right. To win every battle and stay true to yourself, remember that we never bow down, we never bend the knee. Always forward.
There's a tempest in me.